Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto is the leader of uzushiogakure council bashing. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by BIGN1374 and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter begins. Naruto Uzumaki was done. It had taken a lot, but this was the straw that broke the camel's back. Beating Sasuke Uchiha and bringing him back after he defected to follow Orochimaru for power had been difficult. It had cost Naruto 2 Chidori to the chest, both almost piercing his heart. Naruto, barely alive, had shown up to the front gates of Konohagakure with the Uchiha and collapsed. Of course, Naruto had been left behind as everyone rushed to save the poor beaten and battered Uchiha. He was of course eventually saved when the Hokage herself had realized no one had brought Naruto in. On top of being left like a piece of trash, Sakura has screamed and shouted and raged at Naruto for all the damage Sasuke had suffered, completely ignoring Naruto's own, much more severe, injuries. Then, there was Kakashi. He had danced around everything, but mainly just expressed his disappointment in Sasuke and Naruto for using assassination techniques against each other and several other things. That wasn't even the worst of it. The council, in their infinite wisdom, had decided to hold an emergency session while the Hokage herself was busy working on both injured members of Team 7, as well as several influential clan heads were too busy at the hospital worrying over their injured children. They had decided to ensure the Sharingan would stay. Sasuke Uchiha's punishment for turning traitor was to have Anbu that personally trailed his every move around the clock for a year. Jiraiya would be placing better seals around the curse mark. He would be promoted to Chunin with the stipulation he would have to continue to report to Kakashi for personal training, missions, etc. As well as to pay compensation to all members of the Sasuke retrieval squad who were injured and to pay Konoha and Suna the equivalent of a low S-rank mission for the trouble he caused. All in all, not a really that bad a punishment. He was guarded, promoted, had Orochimaru's influence removed, would continue to have Kakashi as a personal tutor, and since the Uchiha clan was extremely wealthy before the massacre, he was not hurting for the funds needed to pay. Naruto was rewarded by the council. Rewarded by being given an official reprimand from the council for severely injuring a teammate as well as endangering the future of the Sharingan in Konohagakure. This of course meant Naruto having a permanent mark on his shinobi record. This severe of a reprimand would also make Naruto not allowed to be up for promotion for at least a year, as well as hurt any promotions on any level after that. As well as an official recommendation to Jiraiya and the Toads to drop Naruto as a summoner and instead pick up Sasuke or someone else more worthy. Of course, all of this was relayed to Naruto by an official council representative, with all the paperwork showing what had been decided and done. The council's actions reinforced the beliefs of most of the residents of Konohagakure that it was all Naruto's fault. They cursed that the third Hokage had let the thing live. They formed a mob and went to Naruto's home and destroyed it. Every possession they could find, and there wasn't a lot, was broken and burned in a pile outside the complex. Clothes, food, furniture, and everything else was ash, even the few plants that Naruto had been growing. The apartment itself was covered in graffiti. Things like demon, dye and much more covered every surface in the place. It was a complete shock to Naruto to find. He had been released quite quickly. One of the few perks about being in Uzumaki and the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune was that his healing factor was incredible. It was more of a regenerative factor than a healing one. But that couldn't help the pain of finding almost everything he had gone. Tears formed in his eyes as he looked around at the words the people he had fought so hard to save had written everywhere. WHY. He blubbered, dropping to his knees in the middle of the destruction. Why would anybody do this? What did I do? What did you do? What did you do? You know exactly what you did, you demon scum. Naruto looked up through teary eyes and barely made out a guy in the standard Chunin ninja gear as well as several other villagers, all with bottles, bricks, planks of wood, and other improvised weapons. Well, what? Was all Naruto was able to stammer out before they jumped him. In his vulnerable position, all Naruto could do was take the beating. Feeling every blow rain down on him, hearing every vicious insult and curse. The last thing he remembered was being held down as a kunai was shoved through both his eyes. And that's for hurting the last Uchiha, you demon scum, now do us all a favor and just die. And then Naruto passed out in a pool of his own blood in the middle of his destroyed apartment. Naruto's Mindscape. Kit, wake up, Kit was what Naruto heard as he slowly came to. Looking around he was confused. He should be in so much pain right now and he wasn't. He remembered the pain from his eyes being stabbed out, but he could see. And what he saw was extremely confusing. He appeared to be in some sort of sewer, and that made no sense either. Kit, I know you are awake. Come. Meet me finally, and I will answer all of your questions. Again, Naruto heard the husky voice of a woman coming from where all the pipes seemed to lead. So, he went to it. He finally reached a giant room where there was a small level of water standing and a giant gate in the middle, a small piece of paper with a kanji for seal on it. Behind the gate was a beautiful woman. Tan skin, long flowing red hair, a tight-toned athletic body with an ample chest. She was dressed in a kimono that matched her hair and a simple black obi. "Ah, there you are, kid," the woman said as she turned her blood-red eyes to Naruto. "I'm betting you have many questions, and I will do my best to answer them." Where am I? Who are you? What happened?" The last thing I remember is Naruto started and then faded off as the memories of what happened hit him. "Yes, kid, unfortunately that really did happen to you. You are in your mindscape, I am in your seal." The woman started, "As for who I am the Kyuubi no Kitsune, the nine-tailed demon fox, king of the Bijuu, etc, etc, etc. What you're the nine tails?" Naruto gaped, about to freak out. "Yes, kid, I am the nine tails. I suppose I can show you." The Kyuubi said, and with a flick of her hand and an explosion of smoke there now towered the Kyuubi no Kitsune in her full might, proudly standing there, and then with a flick of her tail, she was once again a beautiful woman, except this time there was 9 golden tails behind her and a small set of golden fox ears on top of her head. Naruto simply gaped. "You see, kid, only in Uzumaki can contain me and be my Jinchuriki. Your mother contained me before you and before her I was contained by Mito Uzumaki, the wife of your first Hokage. Now I am contained by you, and I am sorry for the pain you have suffered for it. You father and mother would have hated to see you treated like this. But kid, there is hope. Right now, I am keeping your pain suppressed and healing most of your injuries. At the moment, I cannot heal your eyes. You must run from this place, get far away. The fools fear my power and to heal your eyes it would require much of it and they would attack you for feeling. This time they would follow through with killing you or enslaving you to their will with seals." The Kyuubi started, "But, with my help you can escape. Your mother left you a map to uzushiogakure, flee to there and I can heal your eyes and we can train you to become so powerful that none will be able to hurt you like this again." "Ooh, but I can't see, I won't be able to see the map or anything else to find my way. And if I leave, they will just track me down like we did Sasuke. Besides, this is my home, I can't leave. And that would make me no worse than Sasuke," Naruto said, tears running down his face. "No kid, you must leave, they are killing you here. And you would be nothing compared to that Uchiha scum. You would not be leaving for power, but for your own life. Also, unlike that pathetic Uchiha you will make it." The Kyuubi spoke. "First, the map your mother left was not on any paper. She put a seal on you when you were born that will let you find your way to the ancestral home of the Uzumaki. As for not being able to see, kid, I have given you many gifts since you are my Jinchuriki. Your hearing and smell are almost as good as the Inuzuka clans. As well as with both of your parents being natural sensors, you have great potential to be one as well. Plus being my Jinchuriki means you can sense negative emotions. If I were you I would pack anything you have left as soon as you wake. Make as many shadow clothes and have them go in every direction, leaving obvious trails as well as trails that were extremely hard to follow, and every level in between. Then use that henge jutsu of yours and disguise yourself as a civilian and walk straight out of the front gate, they will never be able to follow you. That's actually a really good plan. But I don't know if I could just abandon Konoha. Plus, even with henge Naruto tried to protest. His will to not leave was very weak, the constant abuse had finally almost broken his spirit. Kid, if it bothers you so much, think of it as a personal training trip and a chance to discover the history of your clan." The Kyuubi said, "Plus kid, you do know that another perk of holding me is that your henge is real, it's solid. So, your scent will change." "Oh okay, let's do it." Naruto said, giving in. "I'll grab my precious items I have hidden under the floorboards and drop my headband off at Iruka's. I won't need it for a while." "That's fine kid, I've held you in here for a while to heal. It should be about nightfall, go ahead and get started. I'll be here to help guide you until you get used to your senior abilities." And it was on that night that the village hidden in the leaves lost one Naruto Uzumaki. Chapter end. Chapter begins. -3 years later. It had been 3 years since the disappearance of one Naruto Uzumaki from Konoha. When he was finally noticed missing, it was only because Iruka had come home from a day teaching at the academy to notice a headband on his kitchen table. His old headband, the one he had given Naruto for graduation. He grabbed it and immediately ran to Naruto's apartment. He had vomited at the sight of it and then ran as fast as he could to the Hokage's office. Of course, she sent out search party after search party and had Anbu investigate what had happened. Their reports made her weep, the fact that Naruto, the one reason she had come to Konoha, could not be found and the way he had been treated angered her. She showed then and there why she was Hokage. Her wrath was fierce and cruel to those who had attacked and wronged Naruto on that day. But again, that was 3 years ago. Since then many of the rookie 12 had been promoted and grown quite strong. None were below the rank of Chunin. In fact, Sasuke, Neji, Shikamaru and Hinata all being full-fledged Jonin and Shino, Kiba, Tenten and Lee were Takebetsu Jonin. although they still usually tried to work with their old teams when on missions if they could. A strange boy named Sai had filled in Naruto's position on Kakashi's Team 7 and was even Chunin rank like Sakura. Team 7 itself was no longer so well regarded by their fellow Rookie 12. Most outright refused to consider working with them unless it was under the Hokage's orders. They weren't usually invited out with the others for food or just to chill, with Sai being the exception. Ino was really working hard to break through the boys' route training and had succeeded for a large part. Sakura was still the Hokage's apprentice, although she was not looked at favorably at all like she used to by Tsunader Shizune. Sasuke, having been resealed with several strong seals against his curse mark, simply trucked on striving toward his two goals. Even though he was miserable the whole time, having seen at least part of the folly of what he had done and missed the idiot he had at once called his best friend. Kakashi himself was complete mess. The only reason he had not killed himself or gotten killed on the numerous missions he had been taking was the simple thoughts of at least being able to see Naruto one last time and beg for forgiveness. Naruto, the only thing he had left of the family he had pieced together and then lost. As of right now, Team 7, composed of Kakashi, Yamato, Sakura and Sasuke, were all in the Hokage's office, having just been called in. Well, here it is. The reason I called for you is I have a mission. The land of waves, the land of hot water and the land of tea have all contacted us about this problem. Tsunade's state, uncaringly towards the group, there have been sightings of what they're calling kitsune spirits. Most reports are of a woman with 9 vulpine tails and a pair of vulpine ears. She has done everything from stealing to fighting bandits and missing nin to just making mischief. According to T&I, there have even been sighting, although few, on our coastline. Your mission will be to find out what you can. We need to know if this is one creature or a whole group and what their intentions are. If you have the opportunity, engage the creature and try and bring it back here, using force if necessary. That's why I'm sending 3 heavy hitters and a medic. This could get ugly if it's a true kitsune or strong enough to consider itself one. Be extremely careful since you could end up in different countries following leads. I don't want to have to deal with a war or threats of one because one of you was an idiot. Kakashi, you're in charge, start and wave. I expect reports monthly. I don't know how long this will take, but don't show your faces until you have either significant information or the creature. Dismissed. The 4 quickly did so after grabbing the scroll with all the details of the encounters and the scroll with their actual mission details, having learned in the past that the Hokage did not want them in her office longer than necessary. They made their plans for packing and leaving for wave on the walk from the Hokage's office to the front entrance of the Hokage Tower, leaving Konoha in under an hour. Line break. They had traveled at quite a fast pace, and so they arrived at the bridge to wave by nightfall and were in the same town they had been in the first time they had been here. Much had changed though. Without Gato and with the Great Naruto Bridge, the land of waves had returned to a very nice level of prosperity. Trading with places as far away as the land of wind and the land of earth, all thanks to one missing knucklehead. The group decided to crash for the night in a hotel and start their search the next day. Sunrise was not far off, so it wasn't long until the group was up and ready to go. Sakura and Sai were assigned to stay in the hotel and go through every report and detail they had, while the rest would go and see what information they could find from the locals and return by lunch. So, Kakashi said as he and the others reappeared in the room Sakura and Sai were working in, what does everyone have? Nothing, absolutely nothing. Yamato said, no one I spoke to knew anything more than we did coming in, even the ones that had encounters with the kitsune said they never truly got a good clear look at it. HN. Sasuke grunted in agreement and frustration. Same for me unfortunately. Kakashi stated, what about you two? Sensei, these reports make absolutely no sense. Sakura started, I have one here about it defeating 5 missing nin easily, and the next was about how it had pranked a mean old man. Then the next was about it stealing 100 pounds of instant ramen, and then another about it giving freshly cooked food to an orphanage. There is one about it breaking in a flower shop and stealing a bunch of gardening equipment and seeds, and another about it slaughtering a group of bandits who downright deserved it. Every report is random and more confusing than the last. Like almost every theft, the person was left with money for the goods. And it's not just in the lands of waves, tea, hot water and fire. I have reports here from the lands of lightning, wind, rivers, frost and water. It's all over the place with no pattern, no rhyme or reason. The others stared at her shocked at the range of reports and locations, wondering how exactly they were supposed to pinpoint this creature or get any kind of significant information about it. Well, Sakura is right, there is a few facts, Sai began, looking down at his own notes. The majority of the reports are from the land of waves and fire. The fewest reported sightings or incidents are from wind and tea. A majority of the reports have it operating at night, with it always near or on water, specifically the ocean. I think we should continue in wave for a little bit. Maybe move locations though, more on the northeastern coast, and search at night. That isn't a terrible plan. Anybody else have any ideas? Kakashi said, looking around and seeing that no one did and apparently our only plan. One question though, sigh, why the northeast coast? While most of the reports are indeed from the lands of waves and fire, they are actually not very many from the coastlines facing each other. Most of the reports are from the coasts facing the former land of whirlpools. Line break. On the northeast coast of the land of waves, the 5 Konoha nin were slightly spread out wandering the coastline. The night itself was quite pleasant, with nice breeze rolling in off the ocean. The only thing was, that same breeze was blowing in fog that was getting to be quite thick. With a signal, the 4 nin met on the water's edge. I guess that's good enough for tonight. This fog is making it hard to see, and even if we do find the supposed kitsune, it would be difficult to track and engage in any way. Kakashi said, ready for his bed. Oh, giving up already? Is the great Kakashi of the Sharingan scared of a little fog? Every hair on the Konoha nin's neck was standing up, the husky voice of a woman sending chills up and down their spines as they leapt into a defensive position. I can't believe Konoha is sending all this to find little Olemi. The Konoha shinobi could finally see an outline of what was approaching them. The figure of a woman being seen through the thick fog. Not just any woman either. From what they could tell, she had an athletic body, ample chest, 9 swaying tails and a pair of vulpine ears on her head. She was steadily approaching them with relaxed posture and a hip-swaying sexy gait. And who exactly is little Oleyu? Kakashi said as he slid his headband up and activated his Sharingan. Sasuke quickly doing the same, while the others either pulled out kunai or pulled their hands up in the first seal for a jutsu. Why, Kakashi, do you really not recognize me? I know it has been a while and I didn't look like this, but still, the figure said as it approached. One of its tails flickering out caused the mist to clear once it was a few steps away. The kitsune speaking up again right as the mist showed it, relaxed stance, hips cocked to the left, arms crossed under her cleavage. It's me. Chapter end. Chapter begins. Naruto, believe it. The mist cleared to reveal a very leggy barefoot blonde clad in loose flowy orange pants with black flames that rose from the bottom and ended at her ankles. These pants were worn sensually around her hips with a white belt. The belt did not have the normal ninja pouches, but clearly had several storage seals inscribed around it. She had no actual clothing up top, but had her chest held in place and covered in a white sarashi. Her long blonde hair was pulled back into a high ponytail, and it still draped to the top of her ass. Behind her 9 orange-white tipped foxtails restlessly flickered around. On her head were 2 orange fox ears. Around her forehead was a black ninja headband, and on the plate was the symbol for Uzushiogakure no Sado, the village hidden by whirling tides. What? Screeched Sakura, Naruto is a boy. You can't possibly be him. Oh, poor little Sakura, are you confused? Giggled the kitsune, I've always been a girl, I just had to hide it. The girl started walking around the 5 ninja, occasionally doing cartwheels and other little tricks. After all, as the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune I was hated and attacked and many other things. And that was as a boy, can you imagine what they would have done to a girl in my situation? Think about it, Sakura. Stuttered Sakura, eyes wide in shock. Poor sheltered Sakura, even as a ninja you don't live in the real world. That's enough, Naruto. Kakashi said, not dropping his defensive posture. Why is that, sensei? She stopped her circling around the group, stopping right in front. After all, no one stopped anyone from messing with me. Or were you one of the ones that thought I deserved it? Kakashi could only stare on in silence, looking Naruto dead in her eyes and gasping. Gone were Naruto's beautiful blue eyes. In their place was a strange set of eyes. The very outer rim of the iris was the deep blue they used to be. They immediately shifted to a deep violet and at the very center, shifted again to a blood red. The pupil itself was strange, it was slitted like a fox's. That's what I thought, Kakashi, now what exactly does Konoha want? Why were you looking for me? We were sent to find information about the supposed kitsune that had been going up and down the coast. Find information and if possible initiate contact. We had no idea it would be you, Lady Uzumaki-sai said. Well that makes sense. Well, you've done your job, you can go now. You're coming back with us, you idiot. Part of our instructions was to bring the kitsune back if possible, and you're technically one of our missing nin. Sasuke called but growled. Nope. Naruto said, popping the pea and giggling. I do not believe you have much of a choice. When you left you were but a genin. Kakashi is an elite jonin, Sasuke is a very strong and competent jonin, I am a jonin with a particular set of skills made for fighting you, Sai is a jonin, and Sakura is a chunin. You simply do not stand a chance. Yamato stated, analyzing the situation. Well nice, but still nope, Naruto once more said, popping the pea and nope and giggling. Damn it, Naruto. You are coming with us. Sasuke growled, gripping his right forearm with his left hand, Sharingan activated, I'm bringing you back. Chapter end. Chapter begins. Midori Sasuke cried out as lightning enveloped his right hand, the signature chirping sounds echoing on the beach. Naruto easily dodged the attack, body bending backwards at an almost impossible angle, easily bending in half. With her hands above her hand as soon as they touched the ground, she used the leverage to plant a kick under Sasuke's chin. As it was making contact, Sasuke released his Chidori with a cry of Chidori current. Naruto was hit by the released lightning, collapsing on the ground. Well, Sasuke had been knocked backward and onto his back by Naruto's kick. Sasuke got up first and looked at Naruto with a smirk. "I've learned a few tricks in the past 3 years, idiot. Time for you to come home," Sasuke said, his smirk growing into more of a grin as he spoke. At least until Naruto burst into smoke. "I did too, bastard," Naruto said, rising up from the water and walking up to the beach. "Good night, Sasuke." Naruto made a hand seal, and the spot where her shadow clone's kick had landed glowed, revealing a seal. The other 4 Konoha ninjas stared in shock as Sasuke's eyes deactivated and then rolled into the back of his head and he collapsed, unconscious. Clearly he was very strong and capable. "If he is an example of how you plan on beating me, well, I'm not too worried," Naruto giggled, her tails lazily swaying happily behind her. "Damn it, Sasuke," Kakashi growled, pissed that Sasuke had completely disregarded the plan and been so easily defeated. "No one else better underestimate her or we have no chance." "Sensei, how is Naruto strong enough to beat Sasuke?" She was only a genin when she left." Sakura gaped at Naruto. "Clearly she trained during her time away, ugly," Sai said, looking at Sakura like she was an idiot. Ino was making leaps and bounds with the boy. Somewhere in Konoha she was squealing in delight. She just knew Sai had been sarcastic and even used the right expressions, she just knew it. "Don't call me ugly," she yelled, glaring at Sai. It shouldn't matter how much training she did, she was the dead last of our graduating class, she should never be able to beat Sasuke. Now it was Kakashi and Yamato's turn to look at Sakura like she was an idiot. This quickly turned to looks of shock as her eyes rolled up in the back of her head and she passed out. "You guys should really be taking me seriously," Naruto said, looking at the 3 left like they were idiots, her hands still in the hand seal from where she had activated the seal where Sakura stood. Kakashi and the other 2 quickly leapt away. "Damn it, Naruto, quit doing that," Kakashi growled at Naruto. "Oh no." Naruto deadpanned at Kakashi before grinning and switching hand signs. Immediately explosive seals started going off randomly all over the beach. One set going off close enough to Sai to disorient him, allowing Naruto to leap over and throw another seal on him, knocking him out. Although she was quickly separated and encased in a wooden cage. "Sorry kid, but my wood release wins here. Just give up and come quietly," Yamato said, grinning at the captured Naruto. Naruto said, adopting a thinking pose, finger tapping her chin, before grinning, "Nope, Bunshin Daibakuha." Yamato's grin was instantly gone and he was caught in the aftermath of the great clone explosion. Naruto once again appeared and placed a seal on Yamato's head, ensuring he stayed unconscious. "Looks like it's just you and me, Kakashi," Naruto said, looking around for her former sensei. "It does look that way, doesn't it, Naruto?" Kakashi said, looking at his entire unconscious team. "You've gotten pretty strong and they were foolish for underestimating you. I cannot afford to make that same mistake. No matter what happens, I would like you to know I am truly sorry for everything that did happen to you." "I know, sensei, I know. Now get ready because here I come," Naruto said, charging at Kakashi. A Rasengan fully formed in her hand and where Kakashi could not see one formed on the tip of one of her 9 tails. "She truly has mastered it," then Kakashi thought as he formed his own Rasengan in his own hand and charged, meeting Naruto in the middle. Rasengan meeting Rasengan. At the last second Naruto jumped. Using her Rasengan to match Kakashi's Rasengan and allow her to pivot up and use her tail to bring her hidden Rasengan down on the back of his head. Knocking him out. The last thing Kakashi heard as he was knocked unconscious was Naruto shouting her jutsu's name as it reached her target. Rasengan. Chapter end. Chapter begins. The next thing Kakashi knew was slowly swimming to consciousness in an unfamiliar room. He looked around and it was completely bare except for the bed he was in and the bed on the opposite wall. The bed one very confused Sasuke Uchiha was waking up in. "Kakashi, what the fuck actually happened?" Sasuke growled out. "Everyone underestimated Naruto and she has a lot of new tricks up her sleeve. She took out everyone quickly and efficiently," Kakashi admitted. "Well, that answers one question. Now, where are we? And why does she bring us wherever we are?" Sasuke said, looking around. "Those are very good questions that I don't know either. What I do know is that something smells really, really good," Kakashi said, sniffing the air. Sasuke sniffed the air and realized he was right. They both looked at each other and came to the same conclusion. Follow the smell, at worst they find food, at best Naruto and answers. They both threw on their flak jackets and ninja sandals, which were at the bottom of their beds, and stepped out into the hallway. Looking left they saw Sai and Yamato stepping out of one room and Sakura stepping out of another. All like them, slightly disheveled from just waking up and curious as to where they were. Looking right, Kakashi saw a set of stairs. He could smell that the food was in that direction, so he headed that way. The rest followed. They eventually found their way to the kitchen and there they found Naruto. She was dressed in an orange spaghetti-strapped, crop-top tank top that showed off her toned and tanned stomach and a pair of black sweatpants. Her hair was pulled up in a messy bun and she appeared to be cooking and humming a tune as she did. The dining room is right down the hall on the right. I'll be there in a few minutes with the food. Naruto said, pointing and not even looking at them. They decided to listen. After all, she could have easily slit their throats at any point when they were unconscious, most of them rationalized. Eventually they were all seated at the table with all the food. Naruto sat at one end of the table, while Kakashi, Sasuke and Yamato sat on her right, Sakura and Sai on her left. The food smelled and looked delicious. She had it spread out in a buffet down the center of the table. She had 2 pots of white rice porridge, accompanied by 2 small plates of pickled plums, a large plate of tamagoyaki, rolled egg omelets, a large plate of pan-cooked and simply salted fresh salmon and another of tuna, a large bowl of fresh fruit, a bowl of assorted pickled vegetables, with a jug of water, a jug of soy milk, and 2 tea options. Green tea and Sakura tea. All in all, Konoha ninja were amazed. Now make sure you eat up, Naruto said pointedly, loading up her own plate. There is plenty more in the kitchen. That's good, Gaki, a voice said appearing at the other end of the table. I'm starving. Every single one of the Konoha shinobi jumped up and reached for their kunai. Stopping as soon as they all recognized the figure. The figure at the other end of the table was none other than Jiraiya the Gallant, the Toad Sage. The 5 ninja nearly gaped as Jiraiya loaded up his own plate and began to dig in, like Naruto. They both only stopped when they realized the 5 ninja were still standing, looking shocked at Jiraiya. What's the problem? Naruto said, looking up curiously. What's the problem? What's the problem? Sakura started screeching. The problem is that one of Konoha's strongest is sitting here like he knew you were here the whole time. Jiraiya said, winching, you have a pair of lungs on you. Sit down and I'll explain. The ninja sat down and began to load up their own plates. It's quite simple really, Jiraiya began. Since Naruto signed the Toad contract, all I had to do was have Gamakichi summon himself to Naruto and then have him reverse summon me from the Toad realm to Naruto. When I got to her, she was already here in Yuzu. Suddenly the Toad Sage started releasing killing intent so strong it froze everyone in place, except for Naruto, while they were eating. The condition I saw her in, I was ready to attack Konoha myself. Jiraiya growled. She had been healed up tremendously by her abilities as a Jinchuriki, and yet most people would still be in the hospital from the injuries. Then I saw her eyes. The killing intent spiked again, as every single one of the 5 were fighting to pass out. Her beautiful eyes were gouged with holes in them, still bleeding. Calm down, Jiraiya, Naruto said, looking up at him pleadingly. Jiraiya in turn took several deep breaths and forced himself to calm down and to stop releasing killing intent. The 5 were very happy about the once again calm Jiraiya. Naruto explained the situation to me and I agreed with her. The hilarious part was when she revealed she was a girl. I had literally known her since before she was born. She was the one who was shocked. Jiraiya laughed, then she told me the Kyuubi would heal her eyes. When it happened, I completely understood why she couldn't have been in Konoha. The amount of demon chakra that I felt froze me in place. If that had happened in Konoha, she would have been attacked and sealed, no questions asked. Afterwards she had those new eyes, the tails and ears, it darkened her whisker marks, enlarged her canines, and enabled her to be able to add that demonic resonance to her own voice. Plus a few other tricks. The Kyuubi was good to her. She told me she wanted to train here in her clan styles, and I agreed, as long as I could also train her and she would continue to improve. It was an easy decision. If she had gone back to Konoha, then she would have been hurt by either the citizens or the council in their fear. Now, they can't touch her. Is she really that strong? Yamato questioned, thinking worriedly how easily she beat their entire squad. She is pretty strong, at least Jonin level because of lack of experience. Jiraiya said thoughtfully, I mean realistically the only reason she beat you all was because that beach was already set up in case she was attacked and you all severely underestimated her. Why was the beach prepped like that? Sai asked. Well, the fact anyone would love to get their hands on a Jinchuriki that held no true affiliation. With her being a true Uzumaki one at that and the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, any cage would jump at the chance. Then you have those with more vile intentions such as my old teammate or this organization of missing nins I've been looking into. Having a few extraction points when she went out to get food or clothes or supplies was a necessity. Most of the time she beats them and hits them with a memory-altering seal so they forget about her. Jiraiya said before giving a hard look at Sai, she's even had to deal with other little drones from Danzo's little secret group. Sai's eyes widened before starting to stand up, only to be frozen in place. Don't worry about it, Sai. I simply remove their seals, nasty little pieces of work, and have a chat with them. Then I seal them away. They need some professional help. Naruto said slightly gloomy, I removed your seals too. Everyone could only gape at her. Sai sitting down nervously. Sai, we're going to have a little chat with the Hokage when we get back. Kakashi said with a hard glare. Wait, Sasuke said, looking curiously at Naruto, why didn't you just use your seals on us and make us forget about you? Well, it's simple really. She started, with your mission it would become more and more likely that you would track me down again and again. Even with seals altering your memory you would not underestimate me every time and then I'd lose and be dragged back to Konoha. Plus, Jiraiya wouldn't let me. The five sweat dropped at her, pouting about her actual reasoning. I told you kid, it's time for you to return to Konoha. Jiraiya said, scooting his plate away, finally full, if you go with them, they're a good escort that gets you directly to the Hokage without interference or having to sneak in. Plus, it will get you somewhere a little safer. Remember, even with all its defenses this place was overrun once and that was back when it was full of shinobi. At least in Konoha, there are ninja to ensure nothing happens to you and gives you another village to watch your back. Is something happening that we all should be worried? Kakashi glanced at Jiraiya. I'm hearing some whispers right now and until I confirm them with my spies I don't know. The sage said, either way we're heading back to Konoha after this. I'll be going with you to make sure she gets there. So, do whatever you have to do. We're leaving in the next hour. Chapter end. Chapter begins. It was an interesting trip back. To begin with, Naruto had shown up dressed as she had been for the fight on the beach. Jiraiya had refused to let her leave dressed as that. They yelled and argued and fought. Naruto finally gave in after Jiraiya said he would buy her as much ramen from Ichiraku as she could eat when they got to Konoha. She had returned dressed with her hair down but held back by an yuzu headband. She wore an orange crop top with dark blue long sleeves, underneath it she wore black ninja mesh armor that tucked into her shorts that was clearly seen because of the crop top. She wore orange athletic-styled shorts that were held up by a black belt. The belt had seals all around it and the black clasp at the front had the kanji for oil in bright orange. Underneath her almost skin-tight shorts were actual skin-tight black leggings that went down to her ankles. Around her right thigh she also had wrapped white tape and strapped on a pouch for kunai. She still wore no shoes. Jiraiya had growled about this outfit as well, but didn't say too much. He knew he couldn't afford to bribe her to change again. The trip back was very interesting. After making it to Wave by boat, they had initially set off an easy, for ninja, steady pace. Naruto had struggled to keep up. Breathing very heavy and seemingly struggling with every move. Jiraiya had merely laughed at her and gave a look for the others to not ask any questions. But, by the halfway point she had changed once again. She was in constant motion, easily outpacing them all. First starting to rush ahead and then falling to the back, constantly checking out things that interested her, and to their shock, using Jiraiya as a springboard to do tricks off of. Literally running circles around them, even when they set a much harder pace. All the while she was chatting with Jiraiya about seal theory, the seals she was working on, and seals in general. It was so far above the grasp of the others, they merely gaped and kept their mouths shut for not wanting to sound like an idiot. The first time she actually spoke to Squad 7 was when they were about 2 hours out from Konoha, and that was to grill them about the people that she still knew there. Sakura was only too happy to fill in the details of the last 3 years, the other 3 of the other 4 never did anything much social with her age group, and Sai was so out of his depth with how Naruto asked questions and chattered on that he just kept quiet. Later, he planned on asking Ino what a social situation like this required. Naruto was shocked to learn that Hinata had made Jonin. Apparently, the girl, with Niji's help, had redeveloped an old Hyuga style of Taijutsu, mastered it, and was considered a prodigy in it. The flowing fist was very similar to the gentle fist, but as its name suggested much more graceful, dance-like and flowing. It was perfect for those that had an elemental affinity of water, especially considering that all but a few Hyuga were earth affinities. She also was a part-time apprentice of Tsunade and was actually quite good at medical ninjutsu. The combination of her flowing fist, Mednin training, made her a very dangerous opponent. She had finally shown her skill after seeing her little sister callously using the cage bird seal repeatedly on Niji for daring to be a prodigy and showing up the main house, and then she had talked down about Naruto and the ideals he had spewed. Needless to say, Hinata forgot to hold back in the spar that followed almost immediately. Thrashing the girl in badly. And when 2 elders that had planned on using Hanabi as a puppet clan head stepped in to stop Hinata, she cut them to pieces. She was still a sweet and kind girl to most, but according to rumor, it wouldn't be long before she ousted her father as clan head and forced the Hyuga to make some much needed changes. Hinata led to a discussion about Kiba and Shino. Both Takubetsu Jonin because of their skills with their clan jutsu. Apparently, they were both fast becoming the best of the best with them. While Sakura told of how Kiba was less of a hothead listening to the much larger Akamaru to help keep him balanced. Shine, well much stronger, still had not changed that much. Both were backing their former genin teammate Hinata politically with their own clans. Talking about Hinata also led to discussing Niji. The boy was much kinder too, while being ruthless on the battlefield. Never again underestimating an opponent like he had done with Naruto. Even going as far as almost preaching that you make your own destiny. like Naruto had beat into him. He had, and still did, help train Hinata in first the gentle fist and then helped her with the flowing fist. Using his own rank in the branch household to help back Hinata, with almost every one of them listening to him. His own skills had improved to the point he was quickly becoming considered the most dangerous person to ever use the gentle fist, only ever being beaten in straight to jutsu fights by his old sensei Guy and even his former teammate Lee. Lee and Tenten had both become Takebetsu Jonin. Both extremely strong in their specialties. Shikamaru had mysteriously joined Anbu for about 2 years and when he left had come out as a Jonin. The laziest of the class had been forced to step up by a combination of his mother's nagging, Tsunade forcing him to, his equally lazy father pressuring him so that he could retire, and guilt at failing to see Naruto's situation. The genius partially blaming himself for his friend leaving. Ino and Choji were only Chunin, but that was supposedly changing soon if rumors were anything to go on. Ino had a talent for T&I and was only being held at Chunin so that Ibiki and her father could continue to easily train her, anything higher, and the Hokage would be looking to send her out on more and more missions. Even as she also was being partially trained as a medic nin, being another part-time apprentice to Tsunade. Choji had himself been in Anbu and recently just rejoined the normal forces, people were looking for him to be promoted as soon as he showed off his skill set. Sakura had started talking about herself and Sasuke, but Naruto gave a snort and then proceeded to ask about Iruka and the Hokage. Sakura gave Naruto a bit of a hurt look before telling her how Iruka was still a Chunin instructor at the academy, but had been seen quite frequently with Anko, that crazy instructor from the Forest of Death. Tsunade on the other hand, had been ruthless with doing her best to resecure the power her own sensei had lost to the council and in implementing her own Mednin program. As Sakura finished up, Naruto drifted to Jiraiya's side, calming down. The group slowing, the giant gates of Konohagakure no Sato coming into view. Chapter end. Chapter begins. With gates of Konoha in sight the group began to slow. Naruto herself seemed to drift closer and closer to Jiraiya until, mid-step, she just leapt onto the large man's shoulders and crouched there. To Sakura and Sasuke it was a shock because it appeared not to affect the Toad Sage at all. Kakashi and the rest it didn't, they at least had some understanding of how truly strong the man was. As the group finally slowed to a walk, they could see several key figures waiting at the gates. Kakashi had sent Pakin ahead with a message for the Hokage. The message reading, Squad 7's mission complete. Kitsune among returning party, as well as Lord Jiraiya. Well, complete the mission and its outcome have become very much complicated. Naruto involved. Thanks to Kakashi's message, at the gate was Tsunade herself, as well as Shizune, along with several Tsunade felt she could trust with anything regarding Naruto. This included former teammate, since every member barring Kurenai was a tracking specialist, as well as Shikamaru, Niji, and Lee, since between the three of them their intellect and strength were almost unmatched in Konoha, no matter their rank. Unfortunately, this large number of high-influential and high-ranking ninja attracted attention, and it wasn't long before the rest of the Rookie 12 were gathered as well, along with Danzo and several of his puppets. The returning squad stopped in front of Tsunade. Squad 7 reporting in ma'am. Mission complete. Kakashi said, being the first to speak. All the gathered members staring at Naruto. We can see the Kakashi. Is there a reason you are letting the thing walk about freely? It should be in cuffs or sealed. Or better yet cuffs and sealed. Danzo sneered, stepping closer in an attempt to get a better look. Lord Danzo, I believe Kakashi was speaking to his Hokage, not a mere advising elder, Jiraiya said with mirth in his eyes, as for why she is free, she came of her own volition. Yes Danzo, this is quite enough. Tsunade glared at the old man, this is a matter for the Hokage and her ninja. This is not a matter for an old man who wishes he were Hokage. I am simply trying to look after the interest of Konoha. Danzo replied through gritted teeth, glaring at the Sannin. I am quite capable of looking after the interest of my village, myself. Tsunade growled back. Then you can look and see she is wearing the headband of a foreign village, Lady Hokage. Danzo sneered back, she must be treated as such. This caused everyone to glance at the Yuzu headband on Naruto, who was still perched on Jiraiya's shoulder. Only a few recognizing the marking. Well, considering Yuzu was an ally before its destruction, my headband shouldn't really require that I be treated as a prisoner. Naruto herself spoke up, on eyebrow arching up, her tails lazily in motion behind her. Ah, it speaks, Danzo said, his attention returning to Kitsune. I'm not sure if you need your eye checked old man, but I am a she not in it. Naruto said glaring, her tails starting to whip around a little faster. I apologize my dear, this elder forgets himself, Tsunade said looking up at Naruto cautiously, and while I thank you for coming here so easily, I have another matter I must deal with. Kakashi, you mentioned Naruto in your report. How is he? Where is he? Why did you not bring him back? The questions came quickly at Kakashi, as well as some killing intent. Kakashi gulped and merely pointed at Naruto. Tsunade pinched the bridge of her nose and sighed before looking back at Kakashi. I understand you were in the middle of a mission and had possibly completed it or were completing it when you ran into him. But the mission you had was long-term, you should have went after Naruto. Now, where is he? Tsunade said. Again, he is a she. And she is right here. Naruto said nervously. Jiraiya winced as her fingers and toes really dug into his shoulder. Came the general consensus of confused sounds. I am Naruto Uzumaki, what don't recognize me? Naruto said, throwing on one of her easily recognizable huge smiles. Everyone looked and recognized said smile, along with the whisker marks, the bright orange clothing, tanned skin, and blonde hair. Tsunade along with almost everyone gaped at her. The only one who didn't was Danzo. Anbu, arrest her, he cried out, she is missing Ninja and Naruto Uzumaki. Chapter end. Chapter begins. Immediately several Anbu surrounded Jiraiya. He instantly had a Rasengan in each hand, his eyes daring them to come forward. Kakashi was quickly at the Toad Sage's back, a Chidori charged and ready to go. He had failed Naruto before, it would not happen again. What are you doing? Tsunade hissed at the Anbu. Their job, Lady Hokage. Danzo sneered, Tsunade growled at him before turning and glaring at the Anbu. Stand down before you get yourselves killed. Tsunade said with a glance toward the two ready ninja, and for another matter, since when do you take orders from anyone other than me? The group of Anbu backed off. The leader of the group came forward and kneeled in front of Tsunade, a mouse mask covering his face. Apologies, Lady Hokage, he began, we only acted at the honorable elder's call in your defense. We heard the word missing Nin and acted. Tell your men to stand down until I figure out what is going on, Tsunade said, and walked to stand in front of Jiraiya and Naruto. Are you really Naruto? Jiraiya's eyes softened and he nodded. Naruto merely reached into her shirt and pulled out a necklace, one that was very important to herself and Tsunade, the necklace of the first Hokage. It really is me, Granny. Naruto said, looking down at her. Tsunade herself fought off tears. It matters not if it claims to be Genin Uzumaki or is actually Genin Uzumaki. It needs to be placed under arrest and tried in front of the council. Danzo said smugly from the background. Too early, Naruto said with a smug look of her own, you can't arrest me. No, Naruto, he is right. Tsunade said sadly, as a missing nin you have to be placed under arrest and tried. Nope, Naruto said with a grin, see, whenever I got caught playing a prank or a prank was proved to be one of mine, Grandpa Third had a punishment. I would have to read and copy one of the laws of Konohagakure no Sado scrolls. I had to do it until I had the scroll he had assigned me memorized and could recite it and write it down word for word from memory. If I didn't get caught and could prove to him a prank was mine, I got treated to ramen. I eventually memorized every one of the scrolls. And I had Pervy Sage here bring me a copy of all the newest scroll on the new laws and amendments, and I memorized those too. Tsunade paused Naruto as Shizune retrieved the giant sealing scroll that held all the scrolls of the laws of Konohagakure no Sado. Once back with it, Tsunade made a hand gesture for Naruto to continue. Well, the fifth scroll, the one on missing nin, chapter 7, section 17, subsection 3, article 1 says that, here Naruto paused as Shizune retrieved the mentioned scroll and found where she was talking about and then used her fingers to indicate she was directly quoting it. Any ninja of Konohagakure no Sado who has been declared a missing ninja or traitor of Konohagakure no Sado may turn themselves into the custody of any high-ranking ninja of Konohagakure no Sado that is in good standing with the reigning Hokage and be allowed to present their case before the Hokage and the Council of Konohagakure no Sado immediately before being arrested or tried. The accused may be fully pardoned by the Hokage on grounds of proven innocence or justification. If not, the accused will formally be arrested with no loss of rights and at a later date will be judged fairly with remembrance of having turned themselves. And since that law has not been affected retroactively by any other law that has been passed since then, I qualify. I am the accused, since I have returned with Jiraiya and Kakashi, either can be considered the high-ranking nin in good standing, therefore I get to make my case. As Naruto finished, everyone gaped at her. Tsunade looked at Shizune, who had Shikamaru looking over her shoulder also reading along, for confirmation. Word for word. Shizune said wide-eyed and amazed. Danzo growled and quickly left to gather his puppets and remind those who owed him favors. In his mind, Naruto was only delaying the inevitable, her under his thumb. Shikamaru, Niji, Lee, go inform all members of the council we will be meeting as soon as all of their chosen representatives are gathered. Tsunade said, glancing at Naruto before also leaving to get ready. Everyone else also left quickly, almost all would be required to be in attendance, being clan heirs or apprentices of those who would be required to attend. Naruto, I hope you know what you're doing. Kakashi said with a shake of his head as he deactivated both his Sharingan and Chidori. Be of little faith, Kakashi, Jiraiya said with a grin, his Rasengan fading away. The rest of the group merely glanced at Naruto before beginning to make their way to the council's room. Line break, and then we arrived here. Kakashi said, finishing his complete retelling of the events that lead to the event at the front gates. The full council was gathered. Tsunade at the head of the giant table, her apprentices that were not clan heirs standing off to her front left, the honorable elders seated off to her front right, the clan head all seated on one side with their respective heirs behind them, and the civilian council seated opposite of them. Does anyone else have anything to add or a different version of what happened? Tsunade said, looking at the group. They all shook their head, even sided Danzo's unshown disappointment. Is there a reason you did not return Genin Uzumaki here when you found it, Jiraiya? Danzo said, looking smug, because that is also grounds for arrest. She's my apprentice and goddaughter. Jiraiya sneered. Then no true reason at all, we will need to hold a hearing after this for your crimes then. Danzo said with a smirk. Enough, Danzo, you do not run this council, I do. Accused Uzumaki, it is time to make your case. Tsunade said warily. Well, it's very simple, Lady Hokage, this council has no right to judge me. Naruto said with a grin. The entire council exploded. Some demanded an explanation, others demanding that she be arrested and others just shouting nothing at all. Tsunade finally got everyone to calm down when Danzo spoke up again. Clearly it is not taking this seriously, Lady Hokage, have it arrested so we can have a trial. Maybe if you give it to me as its punishment, I can help train it to be more loyal to Konoha. He said, sneering. Danzo, if I have to remind you again that you do not run these meetings or this council, I will throw you out myself. Tsunade said before turning to Naruto, but he does make it a valid point, Naruto, you cannot make baseless claims like that as your case. What if I point out they are not baseless? Naruto replied. Explain, Tsunade countered. It is not argued that Yuzu was destroyed, ending most members of the Uzumaki clan, except those that were not there or who quickly fled to far-off lands. One of the few Uzumakis who was not there was one Kushina Uzumaki, who had been sent as an ambassador to Konoha to be its Jinchuriki, since only the Uzumaki can be the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Naruto began, Kushina died due to fighting the Kyuubi after having it ripped from her during childbirth by an unknown party. The fourth Hokage then sealed the Kyuubi into the Kushina's child, me. These facts are not contested. Shikaku? Tsunade questioned. If this is all true, it will be written down in the different records departments, as well as the Hokage's record. He signaled for a Chunin to retrieve the necessary records he could, while Shizune left to retrieve the files from the Hokage's records. The Chunin did so, presenting them before Shikaku and then Tsunade. And then Shizune returned and did the same. All of this information is recorded down as facts, although some of it is supposed to be S-rank secrets, Hokage eyes only. Tsunade said with a glare. Continue. Well, it's simple then, did Kushina Uzumaki ever become a citizen of Konohagakure no Sado, or register the Uzumaki clan as a clan of Konohagakure no Sado? Naruto questioned, with a nod. Shizune left and retrieved the right records. No, she did not, it says here that she was asked to several times, but always put it off or refused. Tsunade said. Then it's simple, unless proof of who my father was is brought forward, then I cannot be considered a citizen of Konohagakure no Sado, only a refugee or ambassador of uzushiogakure no Sado, in the role of Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. If proof of my father cannot be found, then as a refugee or ambassador of Yuzu, then the Konohagakure Uzushiogakure alliance treaty must be used to judge me. Naruto said, grinning. It's not as if Kushina reproduced her asexually, just someone bring forth proof of the thing's father, so we can get this over with, arrested, and then give it to Lord Danzo. One of the bolder civilian council puppets said. Technically only the Hokage can reveal Naruto's father. The records of her birth and heritage were sealed in the Hokage's records as a safety measure to protect her. Jiraiya said. Then it is quite simple, Lady Hokage will just have to unseal them for us. Danzo said with a grin, thinking he had won. The civilian council and rest of the elders agreed immediately. Jiraiya, Tsunade said, looking at him worried. It's fine, princess, she's strong enough to look after herself, plus she has us and several others that would fight for her. Jiraiya said, looking at Tsunade. Fine, Shizune, will you please grab those records, as well as the alliance treaty that was mentioned, just in case. Tsunade said softly. Shizune left and quickly returned. Handing over the small scroll as well as a much larger one. Tsunade opened the small scroll and herself and Jiraiya proceed to go through the proper steps to unseal Naruto's parentage. When they finished, Tsunade sighed, looked at the document and then Naruto, before announcing her parentage. Naruto Uzumaki is the daughter of Kushina Uzumaki and chapter begins. Minato Namikaze. The godparents listed as one Jiraiya of the Sannin and Makoto Uchiha. Silence was all that was heard for what felt like forever. The civilian side and the elders erupted in chaos, screaming that it could not be. While, the clan side all looked shocked, while wondering what caused them to miss something so obvious. Eventually Tsunade got everyone to be quiet once again. The evidence is right here. It not only has the birth certificate, but DNA and chakra samples of all parties. They match. Tsunade said. I can testify to being at the marriage of Sensei and Kushin as well as unfortunately walking in on them fooling around after. Kakashi said, turning red with the last comment. He's not the only one. Jiraiya said with a slightly pervy grin. Even if you didn't, it is quite obvious. She is almost the perfect amalgam of their features. Her coloring like her father's, while structurally built more like her mother. The fact is, it was staring us in the face the whole time. Troublesome. Shikaku groaned. Even if it is true, it changes nothing. Danzo growled, at least one of her parents have been confirmed as a citizen of Konoha, therefore she is subject to its laws and penalties. That would be true, Danzo, if not for one thing. Jiraiya said. He quickly pointed to a small corner of the scroll that had held everything on Naruto's parentage. Only 4 saw the very quick and dull flash of a seal being transferred, 2 were geniuses like all Nara, 1 was a silver-haired former prodigy, and the last was the blonde the scroll was in front of. If the Lady Hokage would be so kind to unseal what is hidden here. Jiraiya said with mirth. Looking at him curiously, Tsunade did. Another scroll appeared out of it. Tsunade opened it and read through it before laughing. She handed it off to Shikaku, who announced what it was. This scroll declares that Minato Namikaze renounces any claim of citizenry Konoha has on Naruto Uzumaki, making her solely a member of the Uzumaki clan. It has been witnessed by Kushina and Lord Third. It's signed with chakra signatures, anyone who was around any of them could recognize it. Which means once again, depending on what that treaty says, this council may or may not have any control over Naruto. Shikaku said, looking at Jiraiya in amazement, for even seeing the proof of Jiraiya faking it when he transferred the storage seal onto the other scroll, he could find no evidence of forgery. He tossed the scroll to Danzo, who after reading and rereading and rereading, threw it down and, with a growl, walked out, already knowing what the old treaty said. The other 2 elders picked it up and read through it before passing it around. Since you have seemed to know so much so far, where exactly in this treaty will we find what relates to this case? Tsunade said, still chuckling. Let's see, it should be in chapter 23, section 17, subsection 4, the first article is where it starts. Naruto said before muttering, after I had finished with all the law books, Gramps made me read all the current and past alliance and trade treaties. Shizune? Tsunade asked. Starting at article 1, in any event in which either Konohagakure no Sato or uzushiogakure no Sato are destroyed, any member of said villages may flee to the other, where they will be allowed to join the citizenry. If they do not wish to become a citizen, then they are allowed to continue living in that village, as long as they follow the rules and laws of the land as a refugee, and so may their descendants. Each generation being given the chance to join. If the fleeing party is a member of any of the founding clans, the Senju, Uchiha or Uzumaki, then the fleeing party will be given the chance to allow their clan to join that village and become part of the citizenry that way. If the offer is refused, then the clan will be allowed to live in the village, as long as it honors the laws and rules of the village, as an allied clan. Both the allied clan and the village it resides in having to obey the treaty still. Each generation being given the offer to join. If a member of said refugees or clan wish to join the shinobi forces, they will be being allowed to wear their clan crests and even being able to wear the headband of their former village. As they are not actually citizens of the village they are residing in, then only the reigning Kage has any say over them, not the village elders or the village council. Shizune stopped. Well, apparently this meeting is pointless. There are no rules or laws that the elders or this council can use against her. Tsunade said, laughing, now all that is left is to get me to not punish you. That's quite simple. When Sensei was in charge, he wrote down several laws regarding the rank of Sannin and their rights. One of which was as long as Konoha was not at war, then they could take themselves and their apprentices to train without prior notice to the Hokage. I'm sure you know who he wrote this law for. Jiraiya said, laughing as Tsunade and Shizune looked slightly peeved, and I'm sure Naruto could tell you exactly where to find it. There is no need, everyone is dismissed. Shikaku have Naruto's public information updated, as well as her status as a missing nin changed, and everyone given notice. Tsunade started, Jiraiya, Naruto, and Kakashi join me in my office. We have a few more things to discuss. Chapter end. Chapter begins. Once back in the Hokage's office, the 3 relaxed and sat down. Tsunade activating privacy seals, and with a glance Naruto and Jiraiya activating their own. Tsunade pulled out a big jug of sake and took a massive sip before sitting it down, looking at the group and taking another swing. So, am I supposed to look past you planting that scroll? She questioned, and as for that matter, how in the hell did you do that? You are if you want to keep Naruto here and yet be out of Danzo's hands. Jiraiya started before taking the jug and taking a swig himself, and as for how, as a street rat you learn a few tricks, when you become a seal master you add to that, and when you become a spy master well you put it all together and do your best to fool everybody. I mean hell, who do you think has been signing your name to the few reports that you sent in that kept Sensei from having to list you and Shizune as missing nin? Wait, you did that? Tsunade said, shocked. I've always had your back, Tsunade. Me and Sensei made sure that when someone finally knocked some sense into your ass, you had a home to come back to. Jiraiya said, taking another swing. Fine. Moving on, I need an honest breakdown of Naruto's skills, Jiraiya. Tsunade said, once back in Hokage mode. Just one question, Kakashi said, trying to sneak his own sip of the booze. I can understand Naruto, but why am I here? Because, after I find out what Jiraiya says, I'm going to place her under your command. The presence of 3 Sharingan, a wood release user, Danzo's subordinate, and my own apprentice should help calm any fear from the civilians and keep peace with the elders. That's not a good idea. Naruto said, looking away. And why not? Tsunade asked. Because she doesn't trust them. Jiraiya said after Naruto failed to respond. I mean, think about it. 2 of them she doesn't know, except that one claimed to be made to control her and the other is Danzo's pawn. Sasuke is obvious, betrayed the village and put 2 Chidori in her chest. Sakura, because the last she knew her, Sakura would sell anyone out for Sasuke, going as far as to verbally assault her loyal and more injured teammate for forcibly bringing the traitorous one home. And don't even get me started on Kakashi. What does that even mean? Tsunade said while Kakashi looked saddened. Let's see. He knew her parents and didn't tell her. He favored the Uchiha in everything, never giving her a chance in anything. Going so far as to personally train the Uchiha for the Chunin exams and dumped her on Ibisu. That's right, you heard that correctly, Ibisu. Whenever she asked for help before that, he told her to work on chakra control. Tsunade, how in the hell was a true-blooded Uzumaki supposed to learn chakra control when the only things she knew was tree walking and academy exercises? You know, the things made for people who only have a fraction of her chakra. Jiraiya growled, Kakashi's shoulders sagging more and more with each failure. Damn it, that may be. But that's the only place I can put her that keeps her from being attacked politically and keeping everything calmer. Tsunade growled before pulling out another bottle. It's fine, I'm used to having to watch my own back. Naruto said calmly, taking the bottle from Tsunade, and to Tsunade's shock taking a huge pull. Quit showing off, brat. Jiraiya said, taking the bottle from her, and after being given a questioning look from the other 2, being an Uzumaki and a Jinchuriki, makes drinking with her no fun. The Uzumaki natural healing factor makes it take a lot more alcohol to do anything, and then the Kyuubi filters it out. She apparently considers it poison. The other 2 nodded, it made sense. As for her skills, she's probably the best Konoha has. Jiraiya began, she has one of the most diverse set of skill sets and the most dangerous. The problem is lack of experience. She has honestly only had 3 sparring partners the whole time, not counting squads like Kakashi's that she trapped and ambushed. So I'd put her at mid-jonin level, with the ability to easily become Kage. She's that good? Tsunade asked. Let's see, Jiraiya began with a chuckle, her biggest strength, the ability to spam shadow clones. Not just in a fight but to train. Using them in the past 3 years to train, she has made leaps and bounds. Taijutsu-wise, she has mastered 3 distinctive styles. The Uzumaki clan style, the Gama style, and the Kitsune style. In hand-to-hand she can effortlessly flow between the 3, add in her unpredictable nature, and she is a force to be reckoned with that less experienced shinobi will be overwhelmed by. In that same thought, she has mastered the Uzumaki clan style, Gama style, and Kitsune style of Kenjutsu. The blade she uses for Kenjutsu is one of the strongest swords I've ever even heard of. She is also an Uzumaki seal master, or mistress I guess, and I do mean master. The level she is at, I struggle with the concepts of, soon she'll be better than me, Kushina or Minato ever thought to be. As expected, she is a ninjutsu monster. Between her own massive reserves and the Kyuubi, it will be a cold day in hell when she runs out of chakra. With her clones, even I've lost track of how many jutsu she actually knows. She originally had a natural affinity for wind, water, and lightning. Thanks to Uzumaki genetics and Minato. After the Kyuubi healed her, she gave her some major perks. The Kyuubi added a natural affinity for fire and altered Naruto's DNA to be able to use advanced chakra releases much easier. She can actually easily, relative when compared to other ninja, combine 2 of her basic natural affinities into the advanced ones. Plus, since they are handy, I made her learn earth release techniques as well. And of course, she has worked on summoning with the Toads and the Rasengan. Tsunade and Kakashi were stunned. If all of this was true, Naruto had the chance to become an actual monster, no, a god of shinobi. Okay, so I have several questions from that. Tsunade said. Kakashi was nodding along like an idiot. We're gonna start at the sword, and then we're gonna move on to those elemental releases. Well, you remember Kushina's sword. It started out as that. Apparently, she had hidden the remains of it at Yuzu for Naruto. Naruto found these pieces and decided to reforge it. The Uzumaki were geniuses, their scrolls of knowledge were all sealed against time and weather. The scrolls, they had not only left instructions on how to do something in their way, but had chakra echoes in them, so you could have a master guide you through how to do it. This was how she learned how to forge and how to seal in the Uzumaki clan way. So, she reforged Crimson Princess in the traditional Uzumaki way, but she didn't stop there. She took it to the biggest seal room in Yuzu and proceeded to seal the hell out of it. This room was about as big around as the Forest of Death and as tall as the Hokage Tower and made perfect for writing seals. Using only blood and chakra, she filled the room full with a massive three-dimensional sealing array, with the Crimson Princess floating in the middle. This thing was one of the most complex seals I've ever seen. Some of the lines in it were no bigger than the chakra thread Suna puppeteers use. She then forced it to collapse on itself so she could add to it. That was merely the base sealing array. When she had finally finished, she had filled that room a total of 9 times, collapsing it down after each array was finished. She was beat. She worked on it for almost 9 months. She used gallons of her own blood, massive amounts of her own chakra, the Kyuubi's chakra and nature chakra. Jiraiya was interrupted, the other two almost in at the same time, gasping out. "She's a sage." Kakashi exclaimed. "She can use Senjutsu." Tsunade gasped. "No," Naruto said, interrupting them, "I have been learning the basics of it, but I haven't begun my formal training yet. I used seals on my own body under the guidance of Grandpa Fukasaku, Grandma Shima and Pervy Sage to channel the nature energies into the seals." The other two still gaped. That itself was an accomplishment. As I was saying, she used all of that and finally the seals were done. But she was too exhausted to do anything. I made her rest for several days before I let her activate them. And that itself was another battle. It took her 9 days of constant heavy chakra flow for the seals to activate. She did 3 days of her chakra, 3 days of demonic chakra, and 3 days of nature energy. Then she passed out, but the blade was finished. If she wants to, she can tell you about her blade. As long as it goes no farther than this room, I see why not. You've already told them so much already, sensei. Naruto deadpanned, the other two quickly nodded, agreeing to not mention it. Well, first things first, did you know the 7 swords of the mist were actually forged by the Uzumaki? It was supposed to be a gift. One of friendship, showing that Yuzu would not attack them as long as they did not attack us. I was able to speak with the chakra echoes of each of the masters who made those swords and drew a lot of inspiration from them. The Crimson Princess has 9 distinct complex sealing arrays that allow it to have hugely powerful abilities. The first of the 9 seals of the Crimson Princess is the Eternal Seal, was inspired by the Kubikurumjm, the decapitating carving knife. Because of it, the blade is now made of chakra-conducting black adamantine, which makes it incredibly hard to damage in any way. But if it is ever damaged, it will repair itself using blood or any chakra source. Even if it is ever completely destroyed, it will very slowly reform. The second seal is the Soul Seal and was inspired by Samahata. The Crimson Princess is sentient. Able to tell exactly who its owner is and will not allow itself to be used unless by its owner or someone who its owner has said could use it. No henge will work against it, and it cannot be used directly against its owner if the borrower tries to turn on them. The blade would fight back in at least one of the many ways it could. It can also communicate with its owner, mostly intent, but other times it can communicate in its owner's mind. Being sentient, it also will not allow its owner to use any of its abilities that they are not equipped to handle. The third seal is the Power Seal and was inspired by Hiramekure, with influence from Samahata as well. It absorbs, stores, and uses chakra. It can absorb and store normal chakra, demonic chakra, and nature chakra without limit. Now it can absorb chakra in multiple ways. Either the wielder or a tailed beast feeds it chakra, it is left still and absorbs nature chakra, or it can absorb incoming attacks. Now, to absorb incoming attacks, the wielder has to have at least matching chakra in their reserves and have proficient enough chakra control to do so. It's kinda hard. The fourth seal is the Strength Seal and is what allows it to use its stored chakra and was inspired by the sword Kiba. It can use it for chakra attacks or in seals or, with elemental chakra, to change the properties of itself. When using lightning chakra, it vibrates at an extremely high frequency and becomes the sharpest blade ever, as well as to move faster. Wind chakra also sharpens it and allows it to be controlled away from its user's body with hand gestures, almost like a puppet. Fire chakra heats it up, leaves an after trail of fire, and causes any wound it leaves to also include third-degree burns. With earth chakra, it allows it makes itself weigh much more, making every strike more and more powerful. And finally, water chakra allows it to be more elastic, redirecting easier, and can create a water whip out of the front. It can use nature chakra to majorly strengthen any attacker feed to its owner if they are a sage. Demon chakras similarly. The fifth seal is the Transformation Seal. I guess you can say it was influenced by Kabutoari and Nabari. While I personally did not see the use of their unique abilities, as did see that there is no universal tool and it depends on the situation to what is needed. So, the Transformation Seal allows the sword to shrink, grow, and shift into a similar weapon. It can become as small as a penknife or as big enough the 9 tails could wield it. It can also shift to other weapons, such as a halberd, that consist of 1 blade and a handle. The sixth seal is the Memory Seal. Again, I found the sword lacking, but the fact that Shibuki does incorporate seals inspired me. The sword basically has an ever-growing library of seals that it can instantly create. The sword learns them if their owner learns them and will never forget, so even later generations can learn seals from the sword, but it will not allow the owner to use a seal they are not capable of. When creating a seal, the sword can use any of its stored chakra and will almost instantly form the condensed completed seal from its owner's will. The seal appears out of the tip of the blade, and as long as the blade is within a foot of what the owner wants the seal on, it does not have to be in contact to place the seal. Think freed from fairy tale. The seventh seal is the light seal, and it is somewhat inspired by the Hiramekure. It can use the stored chakra to create chakra constructs that surround the blade. It can create a powerful flash of visible chakra to blind enemies. Similar to the Kaiten of the Hyuga, it can revolve a solid wall of chakra into a shield that can block any attack as long as it's made with enough chakra, or it can make a skin-tight armor of chakra, although the chakra cost and control needed is heavy. The eighth seal is the shadow seal. It can be split up for a total of 9 versions of itself with shadow clones. The clones wielding the Crimson Princess can take way more than one hit, in fact, unless it is a death blow or an incredibly debilitating blow, they can keep fighting. The sword also allows for the original to, with concentration, see out of the eyes of a clone and with focus control it. Of course, in doing so the original can't move their own body, so they better be in a safe place. Finally, the ninth and last seal is the Heaven Seal. In it is 9 of the most powerful seals ever created. They all have been named after a god as well. What is even more special about the Heaven Seal is that unlike the other 8 seals, this seal layer can actually be adjusted so that the owner can wield them. I can't use but 2 of them, I'm working on being able to master the others though. Kakashi and Tsunade gaped. They didn't know what to say. The blade was so powerful it wasn't even funny. Yeah, it's that powerful, Jiraiya said grinning, but without being strong and training in general, it's just a very nice sword. Do I even want to know what the seals are in the Heaven Seal? Tsunade groaned, realizing that Naruto was going to be causing her so many problems and so much paperwork. Well, one of them is the Eye of the Whirlpool God Seal. It allows the sword to be stored in my Mindscape and be called out on instinct or in the instant of a thought. As well as it can be summoned to my hand no matter where I am and where it is in just as quickly. When I die, it will choose one of my children to wield it. If I don't have any then it will search far and wide for a suitable candidate of Uzumaki ancestry to wield it. Naruto said, the next one is the Flash of the Thunder God Seal, and I can't use that one just yet, but I'm close. The one I made and can use is the Whisper of the Hummingbird God Seal. It allows the owner to transport with a thought in a radius of the blade, with only a small fierce whoosh of wind to signify where. Well, very similar in thought to the Flash of the Thunder God Seal, to me it is better for fighting 1 to 2 enemies in close combat, while the Flash Seal is better at allowing one person to fight an army. As of right now I've gotten it up to a 25-foot radius, but I want to get it to at least 100. And a girl's gotta have some secrets, so that's all I'm saying on those seals. That's one powerful sword. Kakashi said, almost drooling. It is, can we see it, Naruto? Tsunade asked. Naruto responded by flicking her wrist, the blade appearing. The blade itself was pitch black from the back of the blade to the Heiman line, where it seemingly got darker. Almost like it was absorbing the light around it. The Heiman line itself was beautiful, like waves on the shore, and at its edge a very fine gold color. The blade collar itself was gold with a Uzumaki clan crest in the center on each side, outlined in pitch black, but filled with a fiery red. The handguard was ornate and beautiful. The outside edge was black, but from the inside out was the golden waves of a whirlpool on the top and 9 fiery red and gold foxtails on the bottom. The handle was wrapped in fiery red and dark black, showing golden ray skin underneath. The butt cap was an intricately detailed fox face, the top of its head on the same side as the back of the blade, leaving its teeth matching the edge. The fox was roaring, canines shone in its gnarl. It was golden and had fiery red eyes that almost seemed to glow. All in all, the sword was as absolutely gorgeous and breathtaking as it was powerful and deadly. Damn, Kakashi said with admiration, that thing looks nothing like it used to. Naruto said with a glare. Huh? Kakashi questioned, startled. Just like me, the Crimson Princess is a she, not an it or a thing. She is sentient, remember? Naruto said pointedly. Sorry. Kakashi said, rubbing the back of his head and giving an eye smile, she looks so much different than before. Can I hold her? Sure, Naruto said, fangs slightly bared in a laugh. She handed the blade to Kakashi, who upon gripping the handle almost collapsed. He dropped the sword as he pitched forward, but Crimson Princess never made it to the ground, reappearing in Naruto's hand. Tsunade was on her feet beside Kakashi in an instant. He waved her off before sitting back in his chair looking much more tired. What in the hell was that? Tsunade growled. Kakashi himself spoke up before Naruto could. Apparently the princess wasn't happy with the way I treated Naruto before, Kakashi said with slight mirth in his voice, so she drained as much chakra as she could from me as soon as my hand touched her hilt while informing me of this. Jiraiya began laughing before taking a huge swig of sake. Should have figured that would happen to you too. The old pervert said with a laugh. Do? Tsunade questioned. Yay, too. See, when she forged the blade, like many Uzumaki clan styles, their forging style is very reliant on emotions and bearing one's soul. In doing so, the Crimson Princess knows of her whole past and how she was treated. Unlike Kakashi, I held on and let it drain me, and much like with Naruto, we talked. I explained, just like I did with Naruto, that as far as sensei said, Naruto was happy, healthy, and not in any danger. When I found out around her Chunin exams, me and sensei got into it. Then afterwards I put it on the back burner with his death and being so close to catching Orochimaru. That when I returned to take her with me on a training trip, she was gone. Jiraiya said seriously, before giving a little laugh and saying, of course by the time I was done explaining, I was basically completely drained of chakra and had to sleep for a few days straight. Tsunade and Kakashi gaped first at Jiraiya and then the sword. Well, as much as I now hate to ask this after all that about the sword, what about these advanced chakra natures you can use? Tsunade said looking at Naruto. Well, since I have 4 natural affinities and they are all very strong ones, the way she reworked my DNA makes it to where I can combine them much easier than other ninja and train until they could possibly become a natural affinity. The only one I can really use well right now is the ice release, the others are just too difficult. Naruto said. Holy hell, Kakashi was finally able to speak again. How do you figure she's only mid-jonin? Don't act like an idiot, Kakashi, Jiraiya said disapprovingly, we both know power does not equal ability. She's got the raw power, the ability to easily get way more powerful, and skills, but she has almost no experience. That's what will hurt her in any fight. As one of her regular sparring partners, she is quite good. But I'm not coming at her with intent to kill, and after fighting me for 3 years, it becomes too regular, too patterned. She needs variety and challenges. Remember, Naruto is in Uzumaki, because of their natural sealing abilities, they easily pick up on the smallest details and patterns in a fight. While not able to actually predict their opponent's next move like the Sharingan, they easily can read their opponents. After 3 years she can easily pick up any keys from me in a fight. Without me actually trying to kill her, I'm afraid she needs others to help keep her getting better. So that's why you wanted her back here. Tsunade spoke. And I've heard whispers. Jiraiya said gravely, whispers of war and rogue nin. I need to check them out and to have someone I trust watch her back. And you trust Konoha? Tsunade said curiously. Hell no. Jiraiya spoke again, I trust you, Haruka, and Asuma. I trust in Kakashi's guilt. I trust in Danzo's paranoia. I do not trust Konoha. Ah. Tsunade said, while Kakashi's shoulders slumped. Both suddenly jerking upright. Killing intent filling the room. Tsunade struggled to match it and Kakashi fought back with his own hopelessly. Make no mistake. If I find out she has been mistreated like before, Konoha will learn of my wrath. It will learn why I truly was asked before you to be Hokage. It will learn why Orochimaru always flees from our fights. It will learn a very painful lesson. Jiraiya said snarling before cutting off his killing intent, I hope we're understood here. We're understood, Jiraiya. Tsunade began, if you ever do that again though, there will be consequences, do you understand that? Sure Tsunade, sure I do. The toad hermit spoke before turning to Naruto ruffling her hair, come on, I have a house here we can stay the night. It's about time we got some rest. Wait, meet at training ground 7 tomorrow at 7 in the morning, so we can test you and officially give you a rank. Tsunade called out as the two nin disappeared out the window. Lady Hokage. Kakashi started. Yes Kakashi. Tsunade spoke. Did Lord Jiraiya really follow through with that? The copy nin asked curious and worried. I don't want to find out Kakashi, the Hokage said, knowing in her heart the truth, I really don't want to find out. Chapter end. Chapter begins. At sunrise there were quite a few figures gathered at training ground 7. Kakashi, Yamato, Sasuke and Sakura were together under one tree. The rest of the Konoha 11 and their former senseis were all gathered under another. Tsunade, followed by the Elder Council, Shikaku Nara and Shizune, entered the area and looked around. Has Naruto not arrived yet? Tsunade asked all of those present. Not yet, Lady Hokage began before stopping to glance at the giant poof of smoke in the middle of the field. Never fear, Jiraiya the gallant is here. They all heard as the smoke cleared and revealed Jiraiya and Naruto on the head of the chief toad Gamabunta. Jiraiya, why do you always have to do that? It's embarrassing for me and little Naru. Gamabunta began seriously before ending it with a laugh. I'm not little, you fat old toad. Naruto bristled, stomping down with her right foot as Jiraiya wilted from Gamabunta's comment. The toad disappeared as everyone's sweat dropped, leaving his two summoners to land on their feet. Well princess, here we are. What's the plan to test my delicate apprentice? Jiraiya said laughing as Naruto began to swat at him. Those that hadn't seen her yet took in her appearance. Her hair was once again held back in high ponytail and by her black yuzu headband, her golden locks flowing down her back. She had on a black high-collared vest that exposed her midriff. It was only partially zipped up, revealing the white sarashi she had. Back of the vest had the Uzumaki crest outlined in bright orange, filled with black, with the kanji for kitsune in blood red at the center. She wore loose black flowing pants that she wore right on her hips and flowed down to her ankles. They had bright orange and blood red flames that curled from the bottom to about her knees. The belt that held them up was a black belt that had the kanji for oil in the center of the buckle in blood red. The belt had no pouches on it, but a sharp look showed small pulses of red flowing throughout the seals that went all the way around it. She was once again shoeless, her tails flowing behind her, with a feral smile on her face. Normally the Hokage will have a rough idea of the ability of her ninja, with the ninja's direct superiors, giving detailed analysis of the ninja's abilities or a showing in the different levels of exams for someone to be promoted. Tsunade began after a few minutes of looking at Naruto, since we truly do not know where you are in terms of level and strength, we shall test you in several spars for specific abilities. Most of your opponents will be from your age group so we can see where you are relative to them, since they have a variety of skills and we know their abilities well. Understood, Granny? Naruto said, still showing her fangs in a feral smile. We won't be testing you in Fuinjutsu, since Jiraiya is a sealing master and claims your proficiency. As well as we won't be testing you in Genjutsu, since no Uzumaki has ever had the chakra control required to do them without seals. After a nod of agreement from both Naruto and Jiraiya, Tsunade continued, first we will test you in Taijutsu against Rock Lee, followed by Kinjutsu against Tenten, and then Ninjutsu against Sai. We will then take a small break for lunch, whereafter you will play a game of shogi against Shikamaru for a test in tactics. Finally, you will face Sasuke Uchiha in an all-out non-lethal fight, so we can see all your skills put together. In this way we can assess your skills individually as well as together. See your stamina and how you face several different opponents. We will begin as soon as you are ready. Sounds like fun. I'm ready anytime you want to start, me and Sensei have already went through our morning stretches. Naruto said. Lee. Tsunade called out, continuing as soon as the Takebetsu Jonin joined them in the center. All present were listening as the Hokage began to list the rules. This is a Taijutsu only spar. While chakra may be funneled the limbs to increase speed or strength of attacks, it cannot be used in any form outside the physical body. This is a spar, while I expect you both to go extremely hard, there is to be no killing blows and no true crippling ones either. There will be medics and myself around the area for treatment, but once a medic touches you, you are considered to automatically forfeit. If you leave the training ground, you automatically forfeit. If you cannot continue to fight in any way, you automatically forfeit. If at any moment you wish to give up, you can forfeit. The spar has a time limit of 1 hour, after which a winner will be declared. Winning should not be your goal. Naruto, Lee is a Taijutsu specialist, your goal is to show your skills for us today. Kakashi will be the referee for today and will start the spar. Jiraiya, if you will come with me, we will leave these two for Kakashi. Tsunade said, walking away with the Toda Sage to join those that followed her in. Kakashi quickly joined the two in the middle and looked at Tsunade. Begin. He shouted after seeing Tsunade nod and leapt away quickly. Naruto. I am so happy to see you well and rejoining us. Let us show the flames of our youth and do our best. Lee shouted, dropping into the base stance of the strong fist. Sound like fun to me, Lee. Naruto said, eyes gleaming as she slid into her own much more relaxed stance, tails fluttering behind her. All of a sudden Lee shot forward, attacking. His punches and kicks would have been blurs to any below high Chunin level. Yet Naruto showed off her amazing flexibility and own skills because every single one was dodged or deflected. Yet she had not had a chance to attack herself. Deciding to change that, she caught Lee's right fist in her right hand, twisting and slamming her left elbow in his face, planting her left foot and releasing his hand and slamming her right knee into his ribs. Lee, seeing that Naruto was taking the advantage, leaped back, wincing at the hits he took. Your flames burn very bright, Naruto. He said, grinning, I guess I will have to take this very seriously. I was wondering when you were going to get rid of those pesky little weights. Naruto laughed. I would not exactly call these little, Naruto. In fact, only Guy Sensei and a few others wear heavier ones. He spoke before throwing the weights to his former sensei, who winced at catching them. Showing how heavy they really were. Well, I guess if you're actually getting serious, I will too. Naruto said. She held her hands up in a hand seal, and all of a sudden, her body was covered in black lines before they slowly faded. What was that, Naruto? Lee said as he once again dropped into his stance. Oh, those? They were just gravity seals. They are comparable to weights that you wear. Except they provide resistance evenly across the body, much like an increase in gravity. Plus, unlike your weights, I can increase them or release them with just a hand sign. Naruto said, smirking as she slid down into her stance again. This time she met Lee in a flurry of strikes. Once again Lee could not seem to land a blow. Naruto seemed to flow around every hit or strike. Her openings were not actually openings, her telegraphed hits never actually came, instead unexpected blows did. Every strike was both precise and strong, causing damage with every touch. This continued for a while, Lee becoming more and more frustrated, even Niji and Gai-sensei could not avoid every one of his blows. After taking a kick to the chest that knocked him straight back, Lee had had enough. Gate of opening, gate of healing, gate of life, gate of pain, gate of limit. As Lee opened each one of the gates, he released more and more power, his body turning red. Naruto. You have truly pushed me far. I will no longer hold anything back. You have no shame for when you lose today. In strictly Taijutsu battles, there are very few who can beat me at this level. Lee said, sliding into his now familiar stance. Well Lee, don't count your win just yet. I also have a few tricks left. Naruto closed her eyes and placed her hands on her stomach. Within a great exhale, the seal appeared on her stomach. Everyone flinched when they felt the chakra flow through her body. When she opened her eyes, everyone took in her changes. The canines appeared even sharper, her whiskers darker, the red in her eyes was much more pronounced. Her nails on her feet and hands had sharpened, her tails seemed to be moving wilder as she crouched down in a more animalistic version of her previous stance. Well Lee, well you have the gates, I have my tails. I am channeling 3 tails of power right now. Each tail gives me a chakra boost, increases my senses, strengthens my body, and makes it more flexible. This next clash will be our last. Naruto declared. Both combatants disappeared in a crack of sound. They were blurs to all those that were just jonin, and only the most elite jonin and cage level shinobi could truly keep track of their movements. Lee was good, very, very good. Naruto was better. Lee could not touch her. She could bend around every attack and counterattack with ease. She struck not just with her human appendages, but with her tails as well. They were hardened by chakra, so each strike was just as devastating as a punch or kick. The last blow came suddenly. Naruto avoided a blow by bending backwards, nearly in half. As soon as her hands touched the ground, she brought both feet up, connecting under Lee's chin, launching him in the air. She quickly finished her backward somersault, and as soon as her feet hit the ground she launched after him. She rose above him, tucked herself and slammed all 9 chakra strengthened tails into Lee, shooting him straight to the ground, knocking him out cold. Sakura quickly rushed to Lee's side and began healing him. While Naruto looked around the clearing and saw the destruction. Many of those gathered were amazed at both combatants' abilities. The only exception, the last loyal Uchiha, who had a small frown on his face. Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Kakashi joined her. Well Naruto clearly won that. Kakashi said. Yay, sorry I think we went a little overboard. Naruto said, scratching the back of her head as she reverted back to her base state and looking at all the destruction. There were craters and holes littering the grounds. Trenches and uprooted trees. The place was a disaster. Maybe a little. Kakashi said dryly. Yes, Naruto, you both definitely went overboard, but the good thing is I placed one of our restoration seals on this place before your spar. This place will be back together soon. Jiraiya said laughing. Before their eyes the place indeed was fixing itself. The tree's roots seemed to pull them back in the ground. The craters, holes and trenches slowly filled themselves in. Grass regrew before all their eyes. This is a seal. Tsunade exclaimed, I may have to get you to do this for every training ground. You'll have to get Naruto. It's her clan's seal. Jiraiya said. Speaking of Naruto, how did you manage to not get hit by a single one of Lee's strikes? There are very few that could do that. Guy with more gates opened. Kakashi pushing the limits of his Sharingan. Jiraiya or myself going all out from the get-go. Tsunade spoke. Everyone was keenly listening in once again, especially a recently awoken Lee. My fighting styles. Naruto said, my Taijutsu styles are the Uzumaki clan style, Kitsune style, and Toad style. The Uzumaki clan style is about being completely unpredictable, to avoid strikes and land blow after blow on my opponent. The Kitsune style is about creating false reads to easily counter and misdirect your opponent, using flexibility to avoid strikes and sharp precise strikes. The Toad style is a strong style where you block or deflect blows and land devastating strikes or using key locks to fight. Combine those with my preternatural body and I become extremely hard to actually hit. Those styles all complement each other really well. That gives you an extremely wide range of attacks while keeping a singular base, that's amazing. Kakashi said with a grin. Yup. Naruto answered, closing her eyes, making a hand seal and reactivating her gravity seals. Well Naruto, as soon as all of this is repaired, then you and Tenten will spar as well. Tsunade spoke, in fact, Kakashi go get her and we can go over the rules for this spar as well. Tenten and Kakashi returned quickly and Tsunade began to speak, everyone was listening in. Tenten and Naruto, this is to be a Kenjutsu only spar. Since we have already seen what you are capable of in Taijutsu, you are not to use chakra on your physical body to increase speed or strength. Chakra may be funneled the sword to increase speed or strength of attacks, or to use Kenjutsu attacks, it cannot be used in any form outside of the sword. This is a spar, well I expect you both to go extremely hard, there is to be no killing blows and no true crippling ones either. There will be medics and myself around the area for treatment, but once a medic touches you, you are considered to automatically forfeit. If you leave the training ground, you automatically forfeit. If you cannot continue to fight in any way you automatically forfeit. If at any moment you wish to give up, you can forfeit. If your sword breaks at any moment in the fight you may use a second one, if the second breaks the spar is over. The spar has a time limit of 1 hour, after which a winner will be declared. Winning should not be your goal Naruto, Tenten is a weapon specialist, your goal is to show your skills for us today. Since we are looking at your skills in fighting with a sword, I ask that you do not use Crimson Princess, but that you use one of the blades that we will provide to you. Once again Kakashi will be the referee here. Sure granny, Naruto said with a grumble, using Crimson Princess would have been way more fun though. What is Crimson Princess? Tenten questioned. Crimson Princess is the sword of the Uzumakis, reforged to being one of the most powerful blades in existence. And Naruto will not be using it because we are here to test her skills in using a sword, not her skills in using a sword that has no equal in battle. Tsunade said, giving a small glare at Naruto. Naruto merely rolled her eyes at the glare. Well, Naruto, you can use one of my swords then. I have the best selection and quality in Konoha, Tenten began, as long as you let me see Crimson Princess later. As she finished speaking, she started throwing puppy dog eyes at Naruto and hung off her arm, begging her. Sure, Tenten. Let's see what kind of swords you have. Naruto said. As soon as she agreed Tenten pulled out a massive sealing scroll and unraveled it. There was kanji for every type of weapon, Tenten found sword and after pushing chakra into the mark, another large scroll appeared. She unrolled it as well and hit it with chakra. Every surface of the scroll then contained swords, from tantos to okatanas. Well here they are. Some of my best babies. Tenten said with a grin, how about this, you pick one, then I pick on, then you pick one, then I pick one. That way we both have 2 really good ones for the spar. Sounds good. Naruto said carefully eyeing the sword before quickly choosing a medium-sized katana, unsheathing it and giving it a few practice swings. Finally nodding to Tenten to indicate that she had made her choice. Interesting choice, it's a Kumo blade. Tenten said, quickly choosing her own. I know. You can tell by the Haemon and the cloud pattern that's been etched into the blade. Naruto said looking through the rest of Tenten's collection. So you purposely chose a Kumo blade? Tenten said looking curiously at Naruto. Yup. Kumo's blades are made from high-quality steel that they make from the ore they find in the mountains around Kumo. Plus, they are well known for being able to channel large amounts of chakra through them. Naruto said finally selecting a second blade that was very similar to her first, very nice, you have a blade from the land of iron. Those are expensive. You have a nice eye for swords Naruto, Tenten laughed, hopefully you're as good with them as you were with Taijutsu. Oh, don't worry about that, I am. Naruto said giving Tenten a feral smirk as Tenten indicated she had chosen her second sword. Tenten strapped her swords both on her right side, drawing one. Naruto merely placed one of her swords at her belt where it sealed itself inside. While the other she also placed on her right side where it seemed to just hang there. Tenten just stared. Seals. Was all Naruto said with a shrug and a grin. Well if you two are done chatting, you can begin. Kakashi said from beside the two before leaping away. Welp, let's show them what we can do Naruto. Tenten said dropping into her stance, feet wider than shoulders apart, knees bent, both hands on her sword's handle, which was arched across her right shoulder ready to strike. Let's do it. Naruto said, dropping into her own much looser stance. Her feet only slightly wider than her shoulders, knees slightly bent, both hands on her sword's handle which was around her right hip, blade pointed almost straight up. They stared into each other's eyes, daring the other to strike. Almost at the same time both struck, the sound of clashing metal echoing through the clearing. Tenten had a staunch defense staying low in her stance to knock away any strike coming her way, striking when she felt an opening. Naruto on the other hand was the unrelenting offense. Her strikes never seeming to have a pattern, a rhyme or reason. Her own defense, when Tenten struck was simply to flow from her attack to glancing Tenten's blade of course. Their dance was both beautiful and deadly. Then the beat changed. Tenten tired of the constant onslaught from Naruto started attacking herself. Her strikes were keen and precise. Years of practice guiding her hand and feet into a fearsome attack that most would struggle to defend. Most did not include Naruto. She seemingly flowed from her own attack to defense, stopping every strike and swing with her own blade. Before Naruto, with a twinkle in her eye, once again changed the rhythm of the fight. It was with the next strike where Tenten's blade met Naruto's that Naruto's blade seemed to not have anything behind it and fell from her hands. This caused Tenten, who had seen the defensive maneuver coming, to fall off balance. Naruto on the other hand simply grabbed her sword twirling to avoid Tenten and struck with a swift stab. One that Tenten was unable to completely avoid, still receiving a cut on her arm. Naruto grinned at the girl and attacked, matching Tenten's blade with her own. Weaving the unorthodox style in with both her offensive and defensive styles. Leaving Tenten covered in cuts all over her body, while Naruto was once again unharmed. "You're pretty good, Naruto, but how about we crank this up a notch?" Tenten all but growled out after having disengaged and leaped back from Naruto. "You're not so bad yourself. And sure, what did you have in mind?" Naruto said with her now trademark feral smirk. "How about something like," Tenten began smirking as she made several one-handed hand signs before regripping her sword, which was now lit up in flames. "Fire release. Talent slash." As she called out the jutsu, the tip of her sword lit on fire. Using both hands she started swinging her sword in front of her. As she did, two more blades appeared coming from the handle on each side at about 30-degree angles from the original, their tip alight as well. As she swiped, it created 3 horizontal rows of fire that flew at Naruto, the extra blades disappearing as she finished. "Wind release. Hummingbird's hollow spear." Naruto quickly responded. Her blade was quickly surrounded by a cyclone of wind. The cyclone reached from the guard to the tip, enclosing the blade. With a quick thrust, the cyclone flew towards the flames. Normally a fire release jutsu beats wind release, unless the wind jutsu is way overpowered. Normally Naruto had no problem overpowering her jutsu, but being the blade wasn't sealed or made with chakra conducting metal, and her own chakra was much closer to demonic chakra than human, she couldn't put too much into the jutsu. Even the amount she did had created small cracks all over the blade itself. The good thing was Naruto's jutsu was perfect against fire though. The long thin spear-like cyclone hit the flames and sucked all 3 rows of flame in. The way Hummingbird's hollow spear worked was the cyclone was fast, powerful wind was the outer shell, but inside it was a vacuum. So, when the wind sucked the flames in, they forced it into the center where the flames were extinguished. The jutsu kept going, and Tenten had to dive out of the way to avoid it, but Naruto wasn't done. She dropped to a knee, using both hands to slam her blade into the earth. "Earth release. Teeth of the tunneling badger." Naruto called out. From where her blade was in the earth, sharp rocks started to rise up through the ground straight toward Tenten. Who once again attempted to dodge, she made it but received a gash on her leg. Once again, Naruto's chakra caused more cracks on the blade. Tenten launched herself at Naruto as quick as she could. Their blade sang as they met repeatedly until everyone heard a loud crack as Naruto's blade finally shattered and she leapt away from Tenten. "Well, sorry about your sword, Tenten," Naruto said, looking down at the handle and the remains of the blade before dropping it. Knocking away the former blade's sheath, her sealing matrix activating with her chakra pulse and her second blade appearing sheathed on her side. "It's okay, Naruto," Tenten said, looking at it sadly. "You just have so much chakra, I'm not exactly surprised. If it'll make it up to you, I can help apply some chakra conductive seals to a few of your blades." Naruto began before getting excited. "Or I can forge you an Uzumaki sword." "You really would?" Tenten said, getting all excited. "Sure. It's pretty fun actually." Naruto giggled. "Let's do it then," Tenten said, a little maniacally. "No offense ladies, but you really should finish this bar," Kakashi said, appearing with an eye smile before disappearing again. "Well, he's not wrong," Tenten said, dropping into a stance again, using one hand to make a few hand signs and regrip the hilt. "I've been pushing myself to be able to complete this technique." Lightning release. Dance of Thunderbird. Lightning enveloped her blade as she surged forward. The technique had been aptly named. A thin layer of lightning chakra covered the blade, and to the sides were 2 streams of pure lightning that twitched like flapping wings. Something most would not be able to avoid, but Naruto, due to her extreme flexibility, was, barely. Not wanting to destroy another sword, she knew she had but one jutsu. She quickly made the hand signs. A very small amount of chakra seeped into the finely made blade. Kitsune release. 3-sword style. Dance of the Vixen. As Naruto finished calling it out, she appeared to grow 2 more almost illusionary faces on her head, as well as a right and left arm out of both shoulders, each new pair gripping a blade. The 2 styles almost immediately collided. Naruto having to avoid or parry Tenten's lightning style, while Tenten attempted to understand Naruto's at all. The style was unorthodox in itself, but her 2 new swords at times would parry her swords or cut her, and others, they would merely pass through, leaving her off balance. The clash lasted but a few minutes before Tenten found a sword at her throat. She cancelled her jutsu, admitting defeat. Naruto followed suit. "Well, that was fun, but how did you do that?" Tenten said, slightly out of breath, looking much worse for wear than when she had begun. "Trade secret," Naruto said with a saucy wink at Tenten, who started to blush. "Welp, at least this sword made it." Yay," Tenten said, looking at the sword as Naruto gave it back. "It's a land of iron sword. I got lucky when I found it." "Well, like I said, I'll make you a new sword for breaking your other one, and since we're friends, I'll place a few seals on that one to help with chakra conductivity and strength," Naruto said with a laugh and scratching the back of her head. "You will?" Tenten exclaimed, hearts in her eyes as she appeared right in front of Naruto's face. Yup. She said with a grin. Well, if you two are through, Tenten go get checked out by Sakura. Tsunade said, approaching the pair. Naruto, your third spar will begin as soon as the field repairs itself. Sounds like fun. Naruto said, grinning, having once again not been touched by her opponent. Fun, she says. Tsunade said to herself, looking at all the destruction that was slowly being reversed before calling out, Sai, come here. Yes, Lady Hokage. The strange boy said, quickly appearing in front of the two with a slight bow. Sai, you will be Naruto's opponent for the ninjutsu portion of the testing. This will also be the last bit of testing before lunch, so that Naruto can take a break and I can consult with my advisors on what rank we should be looking at. Tsunade said to the two, now this is to be a ninjutsu only spar. Since we have already seen what you are capable of in taijutsu and kinjutsu, you are not to use chakra on your physical body to increase speed or strength or weapons to channel ninjutsu. Sai, you will be allowed to use your scrolls, ink, and brush so as to properly be able to use your specialized ninjutsu, but you are not to use it for any sort of fuinjutsu or in conjunction with anything not ninjutsu related. This is a spar, well I expect you both to go extremely hard, there is to be no killing blows and no true crippling ones either. There will be medics and myself around the area for treatment, but once a medic touches you, you are considered to automatically forfeit. If you leave the training ground, you automatically forfeit. If you cannot continue to fight in any way, you automatically forfeit. If at any moment you wish to give up, you can forfeit. If you run out of chakra, the spar is over. The spar has a time limit of 1 hour, after which a winner will be declared. Winning should not be either of your goals, both of you should strive to show your skills for us today. Naruto for your placement and Sai for a possible promotion. Am I understood? Yes, Lady Hokage. Sai stated. No sweat, Granny. Naruto laughed out, adopting a quick nice guy pose. Well then, as soon as the field finished repairing itself, Kakashi will start the match. Tsunade said, ignoring Naruto's antics. She then walked back to where her former teammate was standing to once again watch the action. Lady Uzumaki, it is nice to meet you officially. Sai began before dropping his voice to where Naruto was barely able to hear, speaking without moving his lips at all, and I would like to thank you for releasing me of that seal. I would like to talk to you and Lord Jiraiya about that entire situation as soon as possible. You can drop the whole Lady Uzumaki thing, well it is nice for someone to actually recognize my standing for once, just call me Naruto. Naruto said with a grin before dropping her own voice to well below whisper, keeping the grin on her face, no sweat. Tonight, at the Pervy Sage's house. You think we need to include Granny? Of course, Lady Yuzu, I mean Naruto. Sai said, continuing the double conversation, I assume by Granny you mean Lady Hokage, but no, not just yet. While she has indeed reclaimed a good bit of power that Lord Third lost to the council, Lord Danzo is still not politically weak or without his own resources. Every move against him will have to be carefully calculated and underneath. So, why is Granny letting you use scrolls, ink, and a brush? Naturo said, laughing and then continuing their private conversation, understood. Just one question. Why are you trying to make moves against him? Shouldn't you be one of his loyal little slaves? I use a very rare form of ninjutsu that is ink-based and can bring certain drawings of mine alive to attack my opponents. Sai said before looking straight at Ino and giving a very small very real smile and finishing their conversation as he felt Kakashi approaching. I was once, but I found something that is much more deserving of my loyalty. Well, Naruto said, seeing where Sai was looking and giving him a wink, that is something else, isn't? I understand now. Well, Sai, I personally wouldn't have given away my main ninjutsu style to my opponent, especially one that had already beaten me. Kakashi said with an eye smile, completely oblivious to their private conversation and the double meaning in Naruto's last statement. She beat me before because I underestimated her, as all of us did. She also never saw me use any of it, so just by telling her the premise does not give anything away at all really. Sai said confidently. Well, I guess we will see then. Kakashi said with an eye smile, well, since the training ground is almost completely fixed, begin. The two quickly leapt away from each other and started going through hand signs. Naruto finished hers first. Water release. Water shuriken. The blonde called out. Normally this was a low-level ninjutsu that, depending on the level of the user, created a small amount of shuriken made of water from either the user's converted chakra or a natural body of water. It was, even in some of the more elite users' hands, at most a mid-level ninjutsu. Not for one knucklehead. Around 200 shuriken formed in the air, showing Naruto's high affinity and hard training as she pulled the water directly from the air itself. Water was not an uncommon affinity for ninja from Konoha to have, and yet to have this level of control over the element was unheard of. Only a few handful of ninja had ever reached this level, and only one from Konoha, the second Hokage. The shuriken quickly flew towards Sai, who had just finished his own hand signs. Earth release. Earth style wall. Sai said as he slammed his hands into the ground. While this version was not as strong as the third Hokage's, it was less taxing on the chakra reserves. It was a very lucky move for Sai. Earth release techniques are very strong against water release, and it hid him from view. This allowed him to perform another ninjutsu quickly and in the nick of time. Wind release. Hummingbird's piercing arrows. Naruto cried out as she finished her last hand sign again, taking a deep breath and spitting out 5 cyclones, similar to wind release. Hummingbird's hollow spear. These were different though. They were much thinner, they spun much faster, and were a solid mass of compacted concentrated wind. There was not a hollow center. Earth release. Hiding like a mole technique. Sai called out, disappearing into the ground as the arrows of wind easily cut through his earth wall and seemingly exploded. The concentrated wind flying away from their origin in sharp destructive blades of wind in all directions, utterly decimating the landscape around their origin point. The earth wall was completely gone and the land around it having giant cuts in it. Sai quickly popped up behind Naruto, finishing a set of hand seals as he did so. Lightning release. Electromagnetic murder. Sai called as a ball of lightning leapt from his hands and hit Naruto in the back, causing her to drop. She tilted her head back at Sai and grinned though before calling out, "Bunshin Daibakuha." And Naruto exploded. The blast being big enough to engulf Sai. Although when everyone could see Sai again, he simply started to melt and he was revealed to simply be an ink clone. Both clones gone, they left nothing behind but a blast zone and small pool of ink. Then Sai seemed to pop out of the ground, again it seemed. He was finishing a set of hand signs as he did. Water release. Water senbon. He called out using the water still on the ground from Naruto's water shuriken attack. The ninjutsu created around 50 senbon that Sai sent in varying directions to draw out Naruto. It worked. She easily dodged several of them as she worked through her own hand signs, slamming her hands into the ground as she finished. Earth release. Swamp of the underworld. The ground under Sai quickly turned into sticky mud that he struggled to escape from. This gave Naruto the perfect opportunity that she took advantage of. Launching herself at Sai, a Rasengan forming in her hand. Rasengan. She called out, slamming it into Sai's exposed midriff. As she pressed the Rasengan into his gut, he grinned as her arm went through and he started to melt. Once again revealed to be an ink clone. The real Sai quickly appeared going through several hand signs. Ninja art. Ink prison bind. The ink clone stopped melting and the ink splattered across Naruto, binding her in place. The jutsu wasn't a strong one and would never hold anyone above Chunin for any amount of time, but the few seconds it held Naruto was all said needed. He quickly flew through hand signs, ending on one and holding it, closing his eyes in concentration. Ninja art. Great flora nativity imitating drawing. Sai had been very busy underground. He had planted several scrolls with drawings of all sorts of plant life all over the field. Upon his calling out the jutsu, these drawings came to life. Trees, giant flowers, thorn-covered vines and more, all made of ink, seemed to burst from the ground, twisting and turning, reaching out to grab Naruto, who quickly leapt away, hand signs quickly being ran through. Lightning release. Wings of the Thunder Dragon. As she finished it, her arms were covered in a layer of lightning that seemed to have a wing shape to it. This jutsu allowed her to easily jump from living drawing to living drawing, her lightning-encased arms letting her glide through the air, adjust mid-air, and slice through anything that got close to her as she attempted to get close to Sai. Realizing the futility in it, she changed strategies, using her wings of the Thunder Dragon to launch herself high in the air over the training ground. She released the jutsu and started on the hand signs for another as she fell. Water release. Uzumaki's Great Whirlpool. She finished the jutsu, holding her arms out at her sides, palms up, water started to be pulled from the air encircling her. At first it was only a little bit, but quickly it became a giant whirlpool, flowing around her ending at her feet where she stood on it. The whirlpool continued to grow in size as it shredded anything it came into contact with. Sai's plant life drawings didn't stand a chance. What wasn't washed away was shredded. What wasn't shredded was drawn in and crushed by the pressure. After the field was undoubtedly cleared, she released the jutsu, the training ground was a wreck. The whirlpool had devastated it, leaving a very half-drowned looking Sai gritting his teeth. Lucky for him, his scrolls were waterproof. He flipped one out, this one was different though. The inkwell being larger than all his others. He made only a few one-handed hand signs. Ninja art. Great ink deluge, Sai called out. All the ink from all his past creations joined the ink flying out from the inkwell in his scroll. The field was flooded with the thick black ink, creating a lake of the stuff. Before he quickly started drawing. Ninja art. Super kaiju imitating drawing. Sai finished calling out and with one quick hand sign, something slid off his scroll and into the inky depths of the ink-covered field. Suddenly tentacles sprang from the depths, slamming into Naruto. The eye of a kraken slipped above the surface as Naruto had to leap, duck and dodge its tentacles. She quickly formed two Rasengan in each and used them to destroy tentacles as fast as she could. Unfortunately for her, the kraken's tentacles just healed back. The creature able to use the lake of ink it was hidden in to heal any damage. Then Sai made another hand sign and the kraken's attacks changed. Not only was Naruto having to dodge the tentacles, but now the beast was blasting out streams of ink from them as well. The blasts coming out hard enough they would have taken the flesh off the bone. Naruto quickly grew tired of this game. She quickly flashed through hand signs, taking a huge breath as she leaped into the air. High release. Fire dragon's roar. Naruto cried out as a stream of super hot almost white fire blasted from her mouth. Hot enough that the water in the ink quickly evaporated, destroying the kraken and destroying the lake of ink. She stopped the jutsu and started weaving another set of hand signs. Water release. Water dragon bullet. Once again, she pulled the water out of the air, the giant dragon taking shape. A very tired Sai looked up with a glint in his eye, quickly weaving a few hand signs and using the very little bit of ink that hadn't been incinerated. Ninja art. Ink deluge. The ink quickly welled up and splashed against the giant dragon made of water, splattering across it. A few more hand signs and Sai called out, ninja art. Ink contamination. The water of the dragon turned an inky black and Naruto frowned as Sai pulled it away from her, he now controlled it. Naruto growled, her hands coming out and a look of determination appeared on her face. Two huge Rasengans formed in her hands and hidden from Sai, an even bigger one was being formed by her 9 tails. She charged at the water dragon bullet as Sai directed it to her. She slammed the Rasengans that were in her hands, destroying it as she cried out the technique's name. Big Bowl Rasengan Barrage. The Rasengans in her hand splattered it out. She came through its remains, still charging at an exhausted Sai, flipping and slamming the hidden Rasengan into his chest. Big Bowl Rasengan slam. Naruto easily landed on her feet, finally looking a little put out. Sai on the other hand was in a trench where her attack had landed perfectly, he wasn't knocked out, but he was in no shape to continue fighting, and both knew it. Naruto walked up to him and reached down, Sai looked at her hand before accepting it to be helped up. Sai took a step back and looked at Naruto. You are a hard opponent to face, Kakashi-sensei, I am no longer able to continue this spar. I forfeit. Sai said giving Naruto a polite bow. She quickly returned it. You weren't a slouch either. Those drawings of yours are awesome, I'll spar with you anytime you want. Naruto said with a grin. How about y'all wait a while before that, Kakashi said dryly and pointed around, I don't know if the training ground can take that on a regular basis. I guess we did go a little overboard. Naruto said with a giggle. Brat, that was more than a little overboard. Tsunade said as she, the elders, and Shikaku Nara walked over, on the other hand, we did ask for you to show off for us. So, I guess you did that. Sai, you showed us usage of 3 nature releases, as well as reports from Kakashi say you have 4, with your weakest being lightning which you showed today. You also showed great talent over the Super Beast Scroll imitation art and its variations. Some that I have never even heard of. Those are all new techniques that I have been developing, Lady Hokage. Although this is the first time I've used them in a full-on spar. Sei said. Very good, with that in mind, if the honorable elders or my Jonin commander do not have any objections, I am promoting you to Takebetsu Jonin. After 6 months as such you can apply to be promoted to full Jonin. Tsunade said looking around at her advisors, seeing Danzo frown she continued, although promoted your primary assignment will be on Team Kakashi for now. Thank you Lady Hokage. Sai said as he saw Danzo nod for him to accept, I will do my best to continue to protect and serve Konoha. As is expected. Tsunade said, and then turning to Naruto, you on the other hand still have a few tests left before we finish deciding your placement. Since it's only around 10 o'clock, how about you go ahead and begin your shogi match with Shikamaru. This will give us a better look into your tactical and strategic thought process. And once again don't worry about winning, Shikamaru has only ever been beaten by his father. Chapter end. Chapter begins. So, where do I have to play this shogi match against the bum at? Naruto said with a sigh. A little respect Naruto, Tsunade sighed herself, Shikamaru is one of the most intelligent minds in Konoha. To top that off he is a Jonin, one that will probably be filling the role of Jonin commander at some point soon. Does he still find everything to be too troublesome? Naruto said. That's not the point Naruto. Tsunade said, not even answering the question. Troublesome. The lazy genius said as he walked up with a very relaxed gait, yes Naruto I still find most things to be troublesome. Especially something like having to play a knucklehead like you in shogi. You probably won't last 3 moves. Hey. Naruto shouted, a tick mark formed on her head, I play all the time with the pervy sage. I'll probably beat you. Granny where's the damn board, let's do this. Tsunade used one hand to rub her head, why where are the people around her always like this? Shikamaru on the other hand gave a small smirk. To him Naruto was the most unpredictable person there was. Troublesome. I have the board set up over in that patch of comfy grass. Shikamaru drawled out, I'd prefer to do it under one of the trees, but everyone needs to be able to see us play. Naruto nodded and followed the genius to one of the very few undamaged spots of grass and plopped down. Shikamaru studied her a little before he slowly lowered himself into a comfortable position. We will play 3 games. Doing something once is a fluke, doing it twice it's merely a coincidence, 3 times that's a pattern. 3 games and I can derive much about a person. Shikamaru drawled out, although that's not the only thing you will be doing. Ino is a student of the mind, as most Yamanaka are, and as such will be talking to you. Getting a feel for who you really are. Hello, Naruto. Ino said as she sat down near the board, but between where the 2 shogi players were, I hope this doesn't make you uncomfortable, but I will be taking notes throughout our conversation, so if I need to come back to anything at any point I can. Sure, I don't care. Naruto said, but with a twinkle in her eye she looked between the 2, but if you both could enlighten me to why you both are so angry with me before we start. Both looked up startled and shocked at Naruto. Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Naruto said scratching the back of her head, it allows me to sense any negative emotions, and if they are directed at me. Troublesome. Shikamaru sighed, it doesn't take a genius to figure it out Naruto. When you left, we had just gotten Sasuke back. Most of us considered you a friend too, unlike him. So, when you went and effectively did what he tried to do we were pissed. Then we found out about why you did it, how your life was, and we were madder at ourselves for not being there for you. Teams 8, 9, and 10 have looked for any trace of you we could find when we went out. Most of us got stronger so that we would be able to find you, help you, and protect you. We all pictured the idiot we all grew up with out in the world without eyes or a way to earn money. Later when Lady Tsunade explained to all of us that you were the Jinchuriki and a true-blooded Uzumaki, we worried even more. Now not only were you broken and without your sight, but anyone that wanted a bargaining chip or a chance to grab power could use and abuse you. From being used to breed clans with massive chakra reserves to being used and reprogrammed as a living weapon. Then we find out that you weren't actually the Naruto we knew, but a girl. A girl who had been living comfortably on her own island. To say we feel a little angry that you never once confided in any of us before you left and then never let anyone know you were okay after is an understatement. Naruto looked down as Ino and Shikamaru looked away from her for a moment before Shikamaru continued. That is neither here nor there though. We have an assignment to find out your strategic abilities as well as see how you are mentally. Shikamaru said and then used his hand to indicate for Naruto to make the first move. I had my reasons Shikamaru, ones you could never understand. Naruto said as she made the first move and gestured to Ino to begin. Well Naruto, how about we start with the basics? Tell me your name, age, rank and the happiest memory you can think of at the moment. Ino said quietly looking at Naruto while bringing a purple notebook and pen out. No problem. Naruto said as she studied the shogi board intently, my name is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. I'm 16 years of age. My rank is undecided as of now. As for my happiest memory, probably the last time I had really good ramen. Well then Naruto, why don't you tell me your hobbies and dreams next? Ino said as she scribbled things down into her notebook. My hobbies are eating good ramen, training, working on seals, cooking, working on and with swords, and gardening. My dreams are to master a few techniques, plant a new awesome garden, and maybe work on reviving the Uzumaki clan. So you don't want to be Hokage anymore? Ino asked. It's kind of hard to become the Hokage when you aren't even a full member of the village. Naruto said as she started to make another move, only to put that tile back and select another. Explain what you mean about not being a full member of the village. Ino said looking at the shogi board. It's simple. Well, I have all the same rights as any citizen of Konoha, I am technically not one. I am here under the protection of the treaty that Konoha had with uzushiogakure. Naruto said as she quickly made a move and grinned at Shikamaru. Alright, now that that's out of the way, I am going to ask you a few questions. Please answer them truthfully and as quickly as you can. Ino said looking at Naruto, who nodded her acknowledgement. Favorite color? Orange. Favorite food? Ramen. Favorite jutsu? Rasengan or shadow clone jutsu. Favorite animal? Foxes or toads? Favorite place? Uzushiogakure. Favorite person? Pervy Sage. This continued on for a while until Naruto looked quite peeved, her tail swishing angrily behind her. Looks like I win Naruto. Shikamaru said with a smirk, let's reset the pieces and this time I won't go so easy on you. Naruto's answer was a growl as she helped him reset everything and they started again. Alright Naruto, we're going to do some simple word associations. I say a word and you say the first thing that pops into your head. Ino said watching as Shikamaru forced Naruto to pay much more attention by making the game much faster paced. We'll start with a simple one. Orange. Awesome. Ramen. Food of the gods. Fox. Family. Toad. Family. Jiraiya. Family. Sasuke. Unforgivable bastard. Tsunade. Granny. Kakashi. Abandoner. Iruka. Family. Konoha. Pain. Uzushiogakure. Happy. This also continued on for a while with Ino trying to use what she considered safe words in the sense they would not irritate Naruto with not so safe word. Naruto glaring at the board the entire time as she valiantly fought to win a losing battle. I win again Naruto, are you sure you've played before? Shikamaru said with a smirk. Yes, I have asshole. Just reset the board and let's get this last game over with. Naruto growled out. Troublesome. Shikamaru laughed as he helped her reset the board. Well, that was about it, Naruto. Why don't you tell me about some of your adventures while you play Shika one last time? Ino said as she continued to take notes, these in her head. Anyone who had ever worked with a Yamanaka would see through some of these basic ploys. Misdirection. The notebook was not actually needed, but when it was put away, the target would relax and be looser-lipped. The transition to normal conversation would get the target to relax even more, while the Yamanaka continued to steer the conversation where they wanted it, analyzing every word as they did so. Inoichi was extremely proud, Ino was performing a subject analysis of a potentially misleading ally perfectly. Distraction and misdirection were every type of ninja's friend. The shogi match was intense, Naturo was playing for all she was worth. She used every trick she could think of, and she was still losing and badly. Eventually though the game came to its inevitable conclusion. She lost to Shikamaru. That's 3 for 3, Shikamaru said smirking at the fuming kitsune, you lose again, you weren't too troublesome after all. We'll play again soon, you lazy bastard. Naruto growled out displeased. Ino, Shikamaru, I will expect your report later. For now, it's almost 11:30, let's go eat. Tsunade said appearing beside them. Ramen. Naruto cried out, jumping up, tails swinging wildly behind her. Sure brat, we can do ramen. That place you used to eat all the time has expanded, there is plenty of room for all of us. Tsunade said. Ichiraku. Naruto said excitedly, let's go, you old pervert. Get moving. She had leapt on Jiraiya's shoulder and pointed ahead grinning. Fine brat, I owe you anyway. Jiraiya said tears in his eyes thinking about his poor wallet. Well, to all that would like to join, your first bowl will be on the village for coming out and helping with the testing. Tsunade said, the elders glaring at her for wasting the village's money. This of course made Tsunade even happier. The whole group attended. Some wanting to meet up and talk to their returned student friend adopted family member, others to keep an eye on their students, others to keep a watchful eye on the beast. Right outside of Ichiraku's, trouble struck. Trouble went by the name of Anko Mitarashi. She hadn't been in the village recently due to a mission and saw her best friend Kurina Yuhi. She promptly glumped her with a war cry. Not a smart move in a crowd of ninja. Though everyone relaxed when they saw who it was, everyone except Naruto. Instead of relaxing, she became rigid and launched herself at the woman as she and her friend got up tackling her down and pulling the collar of her trench aside to reveal her curse mark. Bad seal. Dirty chakra. Naruto growled out. Yeah, so what? Anko growled back, it's not like I had a choice with it. Do you want it gone? Naruto said forcing the demonic resonance from her and looking Anko right in her eye. More than anything. Anko said, eyes conveying the passion with which she spoke. Naruto? Tsunade asked with worry. I will do my best. Naruto said, getting up and pulling Anko to her feet, take off the coat. Why you want to see what's underneath? Anko said with a wink. Maybe later, Naruto purred back with a wink, for now, I need to be able to work on the seal unrestricted. I don't need you to strip all the way, your clothes are already revealing enough, okay? Anko said blinking, surprised that Naruto would flirt back like that. She dropped a trench coat, revealing her sexy body to all present since all she had on was body-fitting mesh armor that went from her collarbone to just above her knees, her orangish beige skirt. The mesh did preserve some of her modesty because while it was skin-tight and showed a lot of skin, it never actually revealed any of her truly naughty bits. All the men present immediately started having nosebleeds, except for a few. Kakashi hadn't because he had turned away and used a jutsu to form an earth wall around the group. Sai and Asuma had not because they had quickly looked away, fearful of their women. Niji was fine because of Hyuga conditioning, though on the inside he was struggling mightily. Surprisingly Jiraiya had not either, the seal master inside had taken over. Most did not realize this, but most of what Jiraiya did was to make his opponents to let down their guard, think him a fool, and underestimate the Toad Sage. Those who did quickly learn their lesson or learned how to die even quicker. Although that is not to say he wasn't a pervert, he was, a huge one, but he did have a level of control, or he would have been dead a long time ago. Naruto, are you sure you can do this? Tsunade questioned. She can, princess. Jiraiya said grimly, do not doubt her, ever. Within a year she'll be better than me. The next she'll probably be better than both her parents. Within 5 she will probably be the greatest seal master to ever walk the world. Besides, who do you think came up with all the new suppression seals I placed on the Uchiha every time I came to town? She has studied Oro's little cursed seal even more than I have. Everyone around gaped. Sure, they knew Naruto had gotten stronger, but being a seal master was insane. Anyone who was anyone knew seals were extremely difficult. Even the smartest geniuses struggled with them. A single line, a hair off could make an explosive tag ineffective or make it wipe out a whole village. Seals were extremely hard to even copy, much less come up with. So, for Naruto to be this good, they couldn't believe it. Anbu appeared on the walls looking to their Hokage to see if there was trouble. Anbu, guard the top. No one is allowed in that isn't already here, Tsunade said, and then nodded to Naruto and Jiraiya to get on with it. First things first, Naruto said, studying the mark and speaking to Jiraiya and Anko, I need to force it to expand itself so I can see all the details. One problem. Anko spoke up, when it's fully expanded it covers my whole body, you won't be able to see it. That's why I have this. Naruto said, bringing out a scroll with seals around it. Many a Uzumaki has self-applied self-created seals to their body in the midst of battle to give them an edge. Scrolls like this were made to be able to copy them down fully to analyze after. Especially if the subject had fallen in battle. Oh. Anko said before getting a determined look on her face, do it. It will probably hurt badly. Naruto warned. I don't care, just fucking do it. Anko growled, clenching her teeth and preparing. She looked over once at Kurenai to see her mouth. You got this. Wait, Tsunade said, if you've seen the Uchiha's seal, why do you have to see hers? Everyone including Anko looked at Naruto. It's simple. Naruto said, Orochimaru's cursed seals are always changing as he learns more and more. Plus, I have only seen pieces of the bastard seal and never in the flesh. Tsunade and many others nodded, that made sense. Here it comes. Naruto said. She used her pointer and middle fingers on both hands to touch the mark. Both glowed bright with dangerous chakra. Slowly, as if fighting her efforts, the seal expanded until it covered her whole body. Kanji and marks were everywhere glowing a painful red. This was the seal itself, not the results of activating it. The entire time Anko's teeth were gritted, tears slowly pouring down them, fists clenched. This was a pain like no other. It was as if she had 100 brands across her body. Quickly, as soon as it fully expanded, Naruto used a tail to press an end of the scroll to the place where it was centered. After a few moments it flashed a quick violet color to indicate it was finished. Naruto removed her fingers and the seal snapped back into its closed form. Sorry about that, Anko, Naruto said apologetically, but I basically have to use my own chakra to force it open all the way. Seals like that were never meant to be reopened but remained closed. It's fine. Anko panted out, finally relaxing, so, don't keep me in suspense. Can you do it? One moment. Naruto said as she looked over the scroll she had unrolled, Sensei, make sure I'm reading this right. Jiraiya quickly came over and looked over the scroll quickly with her before shaking his head and the two began whispering back and forth. Finally, both seemed to sigh and Jiraiya nodded to Naruto. Anko, I'm sorry, Naruto began before she was interrupted. I knew it. It's fine though. I've had it so long I wouldn't know what it was like to be without it. Anko started rambling, tears beginning to fill her eyes. Anko, listen to me. Naruto said, grabbing her by the face and making her look into Naruto's eyes. The seal itself is locked into you on levels smaller than the cellular. But, the seal itself can be changed. Well, the seal itself is theoretically a very beautiful piece of work, it's not finished. The seals that it is composed of are various. They overlap and overlay each other so many times it's not even funny. That is our way in. Several of the seals are incomplete for some reason. So, the incomplete ones are our way in. We can go through them to adjust the completed seals that they overlay or overlap and either remove them completely or adjust them to your benefit. What? Anko gaped at the kitsune. Basically, she can't remove it because it's been tied to your DNA, but she can change it. Jiraiya spoke, she could evolve it to something that could actually help you in battle. Jiraiya. Naruto. What kind of seals are contained in it? Tsunade questioned, after all she had a limited understanding of seals. Well, to name a few, Naruto began, there is a containment and binding seal. It's why we can't remove it completely. Then there are few completed seals. A pain seal meant to help influence the user. An aggression seal meant to influence the host's emotions. A seal for combining DNA of an outside source that is also contained in the seal. A seal for helping guide the transformation due to the host and outside DNA source. A seal for channeling nature chakra. And the most complicated one, a soul containment seal. It seems to play a major part in all of it. Like she said, that is only a portion of the seals. Jiraiya spoke up, there is also an incomplete slave seal, an incomplete mind deterioration seal. An incomplete obedience seal. An incomplete mind influencing seal. And a few more. It's ridiculous, no seal should be this overly complicated and incomplete at the same time. Why do you say that? Anko spoke up. Basically, because something this complex any seal master worth their salt would have finished a seal or set of seals before moving on to the next. It would be like a talented seamstress to be making a wedding gown and leaving it full of random holes and forgetting to add a sleeve and then giving it to the bride to wear. Naruto said, once again glaring at the scroll she held. Well, why not just remove all the seals inside the containment seal? Sakura asked, stepping forward with a smug look on her face. Of course, this caused most in attendance to facepalm. Seals don't work that way. Anko said, I was never that good at them, but I know enough to know that. Also, if we removed everything it could literally fuck her up. Like the containment seal is tied into her genetic code. Even adjusting it, I will need to be extremely careful. If it doesn't do that, then by leaving it empty any mid-level sealer could force it open and say splice a slave seal in it. One that would be then tied to her genetic code. So clearly we can't just remove them, Naruto said with an eye roll. Oh. Sakura said as she stepped back, embarrassed. Sensei, do you still have it? Naruto said, looking at the old toad sage. It? Tsunade once again questioned. Well, me and Naruto were theorizing about Orochimaru's seals and Jinchuriki seals, which lead to the discussion of the amber purifying pot, the crimson gourd, and the sword of Totsuka. All three are legendary objects able to seal away things like the solar hole people. So we ended up making our own version. Jiraiya said, rubbing the back of his head. Your own version? Tsunade said, plainly looking at them both. Yeah, we used some special components from yuzu and carved seals in it before and after it was baked to make the clay ceramic inner layer, and then made a porcelain ceramic outer layer that was also sealed before and after. Jiraiya unsealed a large gourd about 3 feet high and 2 feet in diameter at its largest points. See, after Naruto or myself remove the stopper, we can use our chakra to empower it to force anyone or anything to be sealed in it as long as they touch the rim. The person or thing, soul and all, are then dragged into the top chamber of the gourd. Then by placing the stopper back in it, they are forced to the bottom chamber of the gourd, where they cannot be released from without us doing what is essentially a summoning jutsu. In the bottom we can essentially seal as many as we want to. It is a space-time fuinjutsu that puts the person or soul in an endless twilight, the gourd influencing them to fall into an endless slumber until summoned out. Unfortunately, we were only able to get the seals to allow one person at a time in the top half of the gourd. So only one person is able to be sealed, soul and all, at a time. Everyone looked at the gourd. It was a glossy black with a red cloth wrapped at the narrow point in the middle. The stopper in the top looked like normal cork, except the top of it bore the Uzumaki clan seal. It was completely unassuming and yet unnerving. Really? And, why would you need that? Tsunade said. That soul containment seal. The way Orochimaru's seals always stink of his chakra, I've always theorized that he had somehow maintained a level of influence over the seal victim, and that confirms it. If I'm right, he had probably sealed part of his own soul into each one. Jiraiya spoke seriously. That's impossible. Tsunade gaped. No, it's not. With the right seals you could do it. It would be extremely painful, but you could do it. Naruto said grimly, so that's why we need the gourd. We can use it to trap the part of his soul that is in the seal. What if it's not that? Tsunade spoke, you really don't know if that's what he's done. Tsunade, even if that's not what he's done, it's something just as bad. Whatever it is the gourd can contain. Jiraiya said with conviction. How are you going to get whatever it is out? Anko said worriedly. But these. Naruto spoke as a look of concentration appeared on her face. I'm not as good as my mother was with them, but I'm getting better. They are made of chakra so they can be pushed into the seal and be used to contain and control whatever is in it. As she spoke, several fiery golden chains started appearing from her back. The adamantine sealing chains of the Uzumaki. She produced 9, all extremely thick and seemed to be made of a fiery golden molten metal. All those who had never seen them looked on in wonder, while others that knew of them looked on in curiosity. What are those? Ino said, her eyes locked on them as they continued to unfurl. The adamantine sealing chains of the Uzumaki. One of the most powerful and versatile Kekkei Genkai that is not a Dojutsu. Sasuke spoke from behind her. Normally a pure golden color, they are strong enough to even be able to restrain the tailed beasts or create barriers that can withstand the tailed beast's greatest attacks. Hinata said from her side. Wait, how do you both know what they are? Sakura asked the two. As a non-clan shinobi, you wouldn't have had a chance to ever learn of them. The academy got rid of anything pertaining uzushiogakure and the Uzumaki before we arrived. And most clans did too, considering how uzushiogakure fell. Sasuke said seriously. Our clans, however, have always been very staunch in its education of other clans, particularly ones with Kekkei Genkai. Especially the more versatile ones. Considering one of the last known users of this particular one lived in Konoha, and she became an S-rank kunoichi that was extremely proficient with them. Hinata said. You never know who you may face in battle, it's always better to be paranoid and prepared than dead and buried. Shikamaru began, causing everyone to look at him funny. What? The Nara have always believed knowledge is power. The Dojutsu clans are not the only ones who make their members learn of things like this. Well, if everyone is done gawking, it's time to begin. Naruto said, looking at Anko, who simply nodded, as did Jiraiya, who had the gourd at the ready. Suddenly Kakashi stepped forward. He had a kunai wrapped in several strips of cloth that he gave Anko. She took it and with a look of thanks placed it in her mouth and bit down. Kakashi wasn't the only one to move forward. Kurenai stepped forward and took both of her friend's hands and squeezed them, looking her in the eye as she did. "Do it." Kurenai spoke. Naruto moved forward and once again forced the cursed seal of heaven open. Anko bit down on the wrapped kunai and squeezed Kurenai's hands, causing her to slightly wince. The seal unraveled slowly. The burning marks filling her skin. The spiked tips of Naruto's adamantine chains slowly converged on a particular part of the seal and started to push against it. The skin seemed to buckle like it was being pushed on. Then with a slip all 9 buried themselves into the seal and Anko screamed. "Hold on Anko, you can do it." Kurenai growled out as Anko's hand squeezed hers so tightly she thought that some of the bones were going to break. Tears poured down Anko's face as sweat poured down Naruto's. More and more of the chains flowed into the seal and Naruto's face was grim and concentrating. "Found the bastard." Naruto gritted out, "Whatever it is fucking slippery." Naruto's tails waved in anger as more and more of her chains disappeared into the seal. Then Naruto let out a savage growl that made the hair stand up on everyone. "Got you, you son of a bitch." She snarled as suddenly the chains switched directions and all 9 came pulling out. "Jiraiya, be ready." Jiraiya uncorked the gourd as the end of Naruto's chains came into view. On them was a giant white snake. It had to be over 7 feet long and about 1.5 feet thick on average. The snake was pierced in multiple places by the chains. Some of the chains pierced all the way through and wrapped around it to pierce it again. Others fully just wrapped around the thing. It still struggled and fought to be free. As it finally was fully pulled free, everyone coiled in disgust, for its face was that of Orochimaru. The thing tried to speak, but there was a chain impaled through its mouth and wrapped around it. "Oh my Kami, he actually did it." Tsunade gaped. "That's disgusting." Ino said as she recoiled from the sight. "That was in me." Anko said, the pain having been severely reduced after Naruto's chains and the snake-like creature had been removed. "That is in me." Sasuke gaped in horror and disgust, grabbing his mark as he looked on. Jiraiya pulled the stopper out of the gourd and a swirl of chakra seemed to form around the opening. Naruto directed the creature with her chains as it squirmed. A high-pitched scream seemed to develop from it as its tail was caught in the pull of the gourd. The snake was pulled steadily in and Naruto's chains unraveled from it and pulled themselves free, leaving gaping burned wounds. Eventually all that remained was a struggling head. As the last chain it screamed at them all once again. "I am you. Uzumaki. Save me." Were its last screeches as it was finally pulled all the way in and Jiraiya stuffed the stopper in the top. Naruto slowly withdrew each of her chains back into her chakra and when the last one was finally gone, she collapsed to her knees. "You good kid?" Jiraiya said as he walked over and looked her up and down, setting the gourd on the ground as he did. "Yay, you know the chains are always really hard for me to use." Naruto said, drawing in deep breaths. "I know brat, you need to practice with them more." Jiraiya said as he helped her up again. "That thing was disgusting." Naruto laughed out. "Extremely." Jiraiya laughed with her. The rest looked on curiously, wondering how the Naruto they knew would have become grossed out at all, even as something as that thing was. Its chakra was revolting. Like it had perverted nature chakra and normal chakra flowing and it all wrong. Naruto shivered at the thought of that chakra again. "I know brat," Jiraiya spoke and then lightly pooped Naruto on the back, "we can examine that thing more later. Right now, we need to fix that seal. Right sensei?" Naruto said. She pushed off the toad sage and strode back over to Anko, opening the seal once more and once again Anko bit down on the kunai and squeezed Kurenai's hands. Naruto once again brought out her chains, using the spikes at different parts to hold the cursed seal of heaven open. Her fingers then lit up and she began rewriting the seal. Where she touched, she either adjusted marks, created them, or simply erased them altogether. "Amazing." Kakashi all but gaped. "What's amazing sensei?" Sakura asked. "Normally seals are written with chakra conducting ink for a reason." Kakashi started saying, while never taking his eyes off Naruto, only a true seal master can write with just their chakra. It takes a high level of chakra and a high level of a specialized form chakra control to write seals like that. As well as you must be extremely knowledgeable in seals and how they work and how each line affects the seal, or else the seal could do something completely different than you wanted it to. "Oh." Sakura said wide-eyed. They all continued to watch as Naruto altered the cursed seal of heaven, with Jiraiya watching every move over her shoulder. Occasionally he or she would point to something and they would whisper about it before she would continue. 5 minutes went by. Then 10. Then 30. They were approaching the hour mark when Sakura had to speak once again. "Kakashi-sensei, why doesn't Lord Jiraiya help instead of just standing there talking? They could have been done by now." Sakura almost growled out, having to force down the urge to stamp her foot. She was damn tired of standing there. "Troublesome woman," Shikamaru said, giving Sakura a look that said he thought she was an idiot. "If Lord Jiraiya also was working in it, it would be like trying to do a jutsu, but your left and right hand didn't know what the other was doing." Exactly Sakura, if Lord Jiraiya was working on it with Naruto, it exponentially increases the chances of something going wrong. And something going wrong with something like this could end up killing Anko and even us in the end. So instead of risking all our lives to do it faster, Lord Jiraiya is double-checking everything Naruto is doing and be there to back her up. Many a day I saw Lord Jiraiya and Minato-sensei or Minato-sensei and Kushina-sensei or Lord Jiraiya and Kushina-sensei doing the same thing. Kakashi said Sakura, shaking his head to how she still acted after all these years. Oh. Sakura said quietly, a slight color coming to her cheeks from embarrassment at being called out. Naruto and Jiraiya ignored everything around them and continued working. It took them almost another hour before they finally stepped back. Naruto's chakra chains guided the seal closed. And guided it to a new spot on her back at the bottom of her neck. The seal's mark had changed as well. No longer did it resemble the Tomo of the Sharingan, it was now a snake in a circle biting its own tail. The black of the seal and her own skin created a beautiful scale-like pattern, making the snake seem almost alive. Finally she retracted her chakra chains completely. Sweat was pouring down her face as she finally grinned at Anko. It's over Anko, it's finished. Naruto said proudly and tiredly. Thank you, brat. Thank you so much. Anko sagged in relief, spitting out the kunai and finally releasing Kurenai's hands with a sheepish grin. One that was fully returned by Kurenai. Well, the good news is that it shouldn't hinder your growth anymore. The chakra restriction and restraining seals were removed. Then with a feral grin Naruto finished, the better news, activated. Anko stepped back and pushed a little chakra into the seal. Her skin slightly darkened and what looked like dusky purple snakes flowed out from the seal around her body. That's the first level. It gives a natural boost to the body's strength and speed, all while boosting the chakra reserves the user can call upon. All this by using the seal to let the body naturally be augmented by nature energy. Naruto said with a grin. I feel so strong, but I don't feel the pain or the hatred or the drive to lose it like when I first got it, Anko gaped, before gasping and grabbing her head in pain. Anko? Kurenai shouted and tried to reach her friend. Anko held her hand out to keep Kurenai away. I'm fine, I'm fine. She looked up with tears in her eyes. I finally remember everything. What do you mean? Tsunade said worriedly, approaching the two. I finally remember everything with sensei. More tears poured down Anko's face as she continued talking, I just don't understand even more now. How he went from the closest thing I had to a father to this monster. Kurenai quickly took her into her arms. I know kid, trust me, I know. Jiraiya spoke grimly, looking Anko in the eyes, me and sensei spent many days wondering where he went wrong or what we could have done to stop it from happening. If I ever find out what happened, you'll be the first I tell. Until then we must keep getting stronger for the man he was and to put down the monster he has become. Jiraiya. Tsunade spoke worriedly reaching out, looking hurt when Jiraiya stepped away. Don't Tsunade, just don't. Jiraiya's face cleared, his misery hidden once again, now Anko, activate the second level. You're right Lord Jiraiya. Anko closed her eyes, pushing her feelings under, and pushed more chakra into the seal. We will talk about what you remember Anko. Tsunade said, her Hokage mode engaged. Anko nodded as she felt the transformation happening. She gasped as her legs seemed to fuse together, forming a tail. One that lengthened until while she did not gain any height, she did have almost a full 6 feet of tail behind her. Her skin seemed to gain scales all over it. The scales were charcoal all over, except for the belly of her tail that was a darker deep purple that disappeared under her skirt. Her nails lengthened to claws, her canines lengthened to sharper fangs, and her tongue became snake-like. Finally, she gained deep purple marks on the top of her eyes that then flowed down the sides of her nose before ending in a sharp point, just like the ones on Orochimaru's face. When she opened her eyes, they were a deep golden yellow, with slits for pupils. Whoa. Anko gaped feeling the rush of power. Whoa is right. Naruto. Jiraiya. What did you idiots do? Tsunade growled at the two. Well you see, a lot of the seal could be worked around and on. 2 of the main parts of the seal could not really be changed. They were tied too deeply into the base matrix. Jiraiya spoke up quickly, the original base part of the seal takes a foreign DNA source and supplements the host's DNA so that the host can safely and naturally use natural energies. It's what strengthens the host and makes them so powerful. It basically creates a faux sage. Then you have that soul containment seal. Naruto picked up where Jiraiya left off, it was the same way. It was tied so deeply into the base matrix that too many changes would cause the seal to collapse, which would at best kill Anko, at worst, well it never got to that. So, we just adjusted what that seal contained. Instead of a corrupted physical manifestation of a piece of a soul we made it hold DNA and chakra, just like the one that holds that foreign DNA that supplements the host's DNA. We couldn't just leave it empty either. Around the seal, there was plenty of snake sage DNA and chakra that was just freely floating in the seal. We forced all of it together into the former soul containment seal. So, when she activates the second level, this fuses with that foreign DNA and helps supplement the host's DNA. Which, while strengthens her, apparently caused this transformation. Now we were able to remove or repurpose all the seals that could have possibly hurt, harmed, or even restricted her at all. Jiraiya once again spoke as he carefully examined Anko. "How do you feel, brat?" "I feel great." Anko said wide-eyed. "I feel stronger than ever, faster than ever, and more chakra than I ever thought I could have." "Good. You will need to start training with your base form and the seal forms. For those I recommend you do so while under my supervision, at least for a little bit. To make sure there are no harmful side effects at all, even though there shouldn't be." Jiraiya said. "Understood." Anko said with a salute. "Alright Anko, deactivate that, let's make sure there isn't any harmful side effects to this new version of the cursed seal." Tsunade said, giving the seal masters a glare. Anko then closed her eyes and first changed back from the second level to the first and then all the way back to her base human form before opening them. Tsunade immediately performed diagnostic jutsus on her. "Well, everything checks out." Tsunade said before looking at Anko, "You are on mission leave for the next 3 months while you train this. If Jiraiya isn't there to watch you train, Naruto better be. Also, you need at least one high-level medic nin around as well. I'll give you an approved list later. I personally will oversee your first session. It couldn't hurt to also have a third person there who could quickly retrieve myself or other help, just in case." "Yes ma'am." Anko chirped, still excited about no longer being a victim to the cursed seal of heaven. "That seal needs a new name though," Jiraiya said, stroking his chin in thought. "How about the blessed seal of the Naga?" Naruto questioned the toad sage. "I like it, brat." Jiraiya grinned as he held a thumbs up. "It has the Anko seal of approval." Anko said as she adopted a nice guy pose. "So, will you do this for Sasuke-kun?" Sakura asked, stepping forward. "Never." Naruto said dismissively. "What?" Sakura gaped at her former teammate. "And why exactly are you refusing to help Lord Uchiha?" Kaharu glared as she stepped forward. "It does not matter her reasoning, Tsunade, make this girl help Lord Uchiha so that he can become stronger and better serve this village." Hinaru stated as he stepped up beside his teammate, slightly adjusting his glasses as he did so. "First of all, counselors, last I checked I was the Hokage, not either of you. Second, we should hear out why Lady Uzumaki does not wish to adjust the Uchiha brat seal." Tsunade snarled back before looking at Naruto and waiting. "It's simple," Naruto said with a shrug. "First of all, his seal is different than hers. More advanced and harder to change. Second, if I have to finish with these little exams later, I would prefer not to waste any more chakra today. Third and most importantly, I don't want to." "Naruto!" Sakura screeched out, causing several to cover their ears. "That is unacceptable. Uzumaki, you will help Lord Uchiha with his seal. It can no longer be allowed to be a risk to the people of Konoha." Hamaru started with a glare. "How about this, all of you who want me to rework Sasuke's seal, how about he shoves a Chidori through each of your chests and then you can vote on if I do it?" Naruto growled at them. "And for another thing, the cursed seal of heaven on that brat is completely restricted. The last seal Naruto and I designed that I out on him completely restricts it and cuts it off. So, it is not a danger to Konoha." Jiraiya quickly gave a logical response to placate the elders and not give them a leg to stand on, with this argument at least. "How can you help a random ninja and not help Sasuke-kun?" Sakura whined before deciding to argue with the kitsune. "What happened to those who abandon their comrades or lower than scum? Isn't this you abandoning your comrade? Doesn't that make you worse than scum?" As Sakura kept going and going, Naruto became angrier and angrier, her tails violently thrashing behind her. "Well, Sakura, I didn't abandon him. Last I checked I helped design or did design most of the seals that have been placed on him to help restrict the cursed seal of heaven and remove its influence. And I wonder, if those that abandon their comrades are lower than scum, what does that make those who try to abandon everyone and then attempt to kill their comrades? How low does that make them?" Naruto growled out. Sasuke flinched at the harsh, yet truthful, words. Sakura deflated, but then looked like she was about to respond again when Sasuke grabbed her shoulder. She looked back and he simply shook his head. "If Naruto doesn't wish to fully remove my seal or alter it to be like Anko's, she doesn't have to. If she says her and Lord Jiraiya have completely cut it off from having influence over me, then that is enough." Sasuke spoke quietly, getting strange looks from the few who knew how much the seal bothered him. "Besides Sakura, Anko isn't a random person. She was there for me a lot when I was younger. She was one of the few that knew I was actually a girl." Naruto admitted, looking at Anko, who gaped. "Wait, Brad, is that you?" Anko said, looking curiously at the kitsune, and when she received a nod in response, Anko promptly glumped her. "I feel like we're missing something here." Ino said, looking at the pair curiously. "Well, you see, Grandpa Third always did the best he could when raising me. Naruto started while everyone else started paying strict attention. The main problem he had was that I was a girl pretending to be a boy. So, things like the kunoichi only classes at the academy are things girls have to deal with growing up. He needed someone to help with that. He knew Anko could be discreet and wouldn't judge me on my burden, so he enlisted her into helping. Yup. Anko said, holding a peace sign up. Lord Third had me helping her since she was really young to make sure she always has a female presence in her life that she could trust. Hell, the only other person she might have spent more time around than me was Lord Third himself, and Asuma. Wait. What? Kurenai looked from her best friend to her secret, yet not so secret, boyfriend. Yay, it was before I left to be one of the 12 or whenever I would be back on leave. The old man used to make me watch her, a lot. That kid could get into so much trouble even with somebody watching her. Asuma sighed. Asuma, don't even joke like that. I remember how much you used to love to play with little Naru. Anko laughed as Asuma's cheeks colored slightly. Yay, Uncle Asuma, you know you loved watching me. Naruto grinned at the older man. As heart-wrenching as this little reunion is, I believe we still have one final test to do on the creature, so can we hurry this along? I have things to do with my time. The dry, sarcastic voice of Danzo caused many to tense up. Danzo, if I have to tell you again not to refer to Naruto like that, I may just have to do what sensei never would. Jiraiya growled at the old man. I wonder, just what does an old retired shinobi like you does that he considers so important? Tsunade questioned Danzo. On the other hand, we have been holding up everything for quite a while. Kakashi, if you would please drop the wall. I do believe we have been blocking the entrance to Ichiraku for almost 2 hours. Like I said, the first round is on the village for participating with testing Naruto's abilities. Kakashi nodded and lowered the earth-style wall he had surrounded them with, Anbu leaping away as he did. It revealed the curious and worried faces of Tuchi and Am. Lady Hokage. Tuchi said, immediately noticing Tsunade, is everything okay? Yes, it is. We just had to take care of something out here. The good news is that most of us will be eating here, and I will be giving you a little extra as compensation for disrupting your business. Tsunade said, attempting to placate the worried ramen chef. That's all fine, Lady Hokage, but what about Naruto? We heard rumors that he had been brought back to the village. Am quickly filled in for her father. She had seen Naruto as a younger sibling and cried many a time at the thought of what he had been through. Well, see, the Hokage trailed off, attempting to figure out exactly how to break the news of Naruto. It's simple, Kakashi said, pushing Naruto forward. He was actually a she, and here she is. Hey, Naruto began nervously, her tails fluttering behind her showing how nervous she was. The two immediately tackled Naruto in a hug. You knucklehead, where have you been? Am had tears running down her face. Uzushiogakure, my mother's home. Naruto herself was fighting back tears. How could you? My best customer just leaves without even saying goodbye. Tuchi cried out, causing Am to start hitting him in the head. Dad, be serious for once. She yelled at him. It's okay, Am, Naruto said, almost giggling at the chief. The thing is, old man, I'm back, and I'm hungry. Well then, Am, it's time to get to work. Tuchi said as he clambered to get back behind the counter into his kitchen. Am, find out what everyone wants. Well, sit wherever you all would like. Am said, expanding her hands to indicate the much larger restaurant. Naruto finally noticed the new and improved Ichiraku. Instead of walking through a curtain, it was a set of glass double doors. Instead of a simple counter with some seats lined up, there was a larger counter with more seats and a large eating area with multiple booths and tables in it. Naruto gazed in wonder before taking a spot at the counter. Naruto, we have a new and expanded menu too. Am said, but clearly saw how Naruto was glaze-eyed looking at the ramen, or you can start with one of your usuals. I want 10 bowls of pork, 5 chicken, and 5 beef. Naruto drooled out. Uzumaki's eyes. Am laughed and handed a ticket back to her father before moving on to the various other orders around. Wait, what's Uzumaki's size? Sakura questioned, all I see is small, medium, or large bowls. That's because dad came up with it when Kushina Uzumaki started coming in to eat regularly. If anyone could give Naruto a run for their money eating ramen, it was her. Am laughed at all the curious looks, and Uzumaki bowl is the size of 2 of our large bowls. Everyone just gaped at her, she simply shrugged. Wait, I have another question. Sakura said, slightly blushing when she realized everyone was watching her. Naruto used to eat here for every meal, almost right? Am nodded. Sakura, it was one of the few places that would never throw me out or charge me crazy prices. Naruto sadly said. Well, how did Naruto grow up, right? I mean, ramen is full of calories and not much else. There is no way she could have gotten all the nutrition she needed from just eating here. Sakura asked and then looked down as several people were glaring at her. Well, at some ramen places, yes, that is the case. However, at Ramen Ichiraku we use only the freshest of ingredients, so our ramen actually has an extremely high nutritional value. Full of healthy carbs, protein and vegetables. Am sounded almost as if she was on a commercial. Plus, Lord Third gave us these. Tucci said and tossed a single small tablet at Sakura, who caught it. "What is it?" she asked, examining it. "Specialized dissolvable nutrition supplements." Tsunade said with a small smile, "Everything your ramen-obsessed Uzumaki needs. I remember helping my grandmother design these for Kushina. For a while there she wouldn't eat anything but ramen from here. Come to think of it, Grandma Mito started eating more ramen after we made them too." "Yup," Tucci laughed, Lord Third recommissioned them from the hospital once Naruto started coming here. It brought back so many memories. At that moment Naruto's stomach decided to growl. "Well, that's enough reminiscing, clearly some of you are hungry," Tucci said before going back again to prepare Naruto's order, letting AM gather the others. All of Naruto's friends decided to sit at one of the large tables in the center. Ino decided to take it on herself to make Naruto move. "Naruto," the other blonde started, "we all need to talk. You're going to sit with all of us so we can clear the air." Naruto let herself be drugged to the table and sat down. Team 10 sat to her right and Team 8 to her direct left. Teams 9 sat on the other side to her left, while her own former teammate sat across and to the right. "So, what exactly need to be cleared up here? I was tired of this village, and it's bullshit. I brought back everyone's precious Uchiha, who attempted to kill me several times I might add, and my reward was being yelled at by his stupid fangirl that plays at being a ninja. And my sensei that never trained me criticized me for using the level of jutsu I did when his favorite little student tried to kill me with a similar rank jutsu while trying to defect. The council basically punished me by limiting my ninja career, and then the village itself decided that I should no longer own or have anything, including a set of functional eyes. So, what explanations do I owe to anyone?" Naruto growled out, a little pissed that she was being taken from her spot at the counter and that these people wanted to blame her for their feelings over her leaving. Sakura grew pissed at hearing her description. Kakashi, who like most the former senseis had sat in a booth beside the table to eavesdrop, visibly saddened. Sasuke simply closed his eyes, but anyone who looked close enough could see the small tick every time Naruto mentioned his attempted defection or when he tried to kill her. The others somewhat shared a look, with a few getting a little angry about her comments. "Naruto, I'm a chunin and an apprentice of the Hokage herself. How dare you say I'm a fangirl that plays at being a ninja?" she growled at the blonde. "Sakura, you just ordered a small bowl of diet ramen. As the apprentice to the Hokage, who is one of the most renowned medical shinobi to have ever existed, you would think you would have at least some medical knowledge. Your body needs calories and a balanced diet to function, especially if you live an active lifestyle. Therefore, you starving yourself is proving my point. You don't take being a ninja seriously. Like you said, you are a student of the Hokage, one of the legendary Sannin, and have been for what, over 3 years? And yet you are only a chunin. I'm betting you're a pretty good medic and trash at anything not related to sheer book knowledge or controlling your stupid little chakra supply. You're pathetic." Naruto didn't say it with hate or anger or anything like that, she stated everything as if it were facts. That made it even more embarrassing for the pink-haired girl, who could barely contain her tears. "That's enough, Naruto." Ino almost growled at the kitsune. Why is that enough?" Naruto began angrily, "Because suddenly all of you decide it is. Because all of you are pissed for some reason because I didn't tell you I was a girl or that I was the Jinchuriki. Because all of you are angry that I left without talking to you. Yes, Naruto, we were your friends. You should have told us, we would have helped you." Kiba was the one to speak up now. "Friends? How were any of you my friends?" Naruto said in disbelief. "How many of you have passed by when I was thrown out of a place simply for trying to buy groceries? How many of you have walked in the opposite direction when someone was beating on me or destroying my stuff? How many of you have actively participated in helping dehumanize me or deny me basic human rights? So, I left and now you feel guilty and decide that I should have come to one of you instead of leaving. Name one time any of you reached out and helped me when I needed it. One time you saw I didn't have any money because I was always being overpriced, or the chunin supposed to deliver my stipend decided I didn't deserve it and you helped me pay for food or my bills. One time where you stopped them from hurting me. One time you stopped them from destroying the few possessions I had been allowed to finally have. One time where you did anything." Everyone around her was quiet. Sitting there ashamed, most realizing that they may have never participated in anything, but they never stopped it either. "We were children, Naruto, what were we supposed to do?" Shino spoke up from her far left. "I'm not saying you were supposed to do anything, we were kids. But I don't see why you thought I should have gone to any of you for help when I was at my weakest, blind and beaten, when you never had helped before," Naruto said sadly. Silence. Many taking in what she said. Many of the older generation ashamed by the same reasons the younger ones were. Others were simply disgusted by this show of emotions from this generation of ninja and the village's latest weapon. "Troublesome. Maybe that is why we are so mad, Naruto. We do realize why you didn't come to us for help and yet we did consider ourselves your friends," Shikamaru said quietly. "Maybe it's because you've had such an important impact on all of our lives in one way or another. Helped us when we did not even want or even know we needed it. Yet we were not there when you needed us. Niji spoke up from the other end. Maybe it's because we didn't realize how important you were to us until you were gone. Or realize how bad you had it, far worse than any of us, and yet you were always there, with a smile, for any of us. Our guilt and anger at being inadequate friends for you displaced onto you for leaving us. Sasuke spoke, much to the surprise of everyone. Everyone was quiet for a while. Contemplating what had just been said. Maybe you all should get over it. The past is in the past. I'm clearly not the same person I was when I left, and yet I'm not that different from when I left. I just stand up for myself now and have a sense of self-worth. Naruto said, breathing out deeply, maybe we should try again, and you all show me why I could come to you now if anything like that ever happened again. So, we start over as friends? Ino asked. Why not? It may take more time with some than with others, but why don't we try and be friends again? Naruto said as she scratched the back of her head and let loose with a small grin. Most of the senseis visibly relaxed. Except Jiraiya, who had a small frown. He loved his goddaughter, but she needed to be less forgiving before it got her killed. Naruto was the first one to get her food and she was still finished before everyone else. Ordering a second round of the same thing. Tenten, do you mind if I use your sword against Sasuke? Naruto questioned as she finished the last bowl of her second round. Sure, Tenten said, a little hesitant, I just don't know how long it will hold up with your chakra. That was my next question, Naruto grinned, do you mind if I alter it a bit with a few seals? So, you want to take my sword, made in a land of iron, and add Uzumaki seal work to it? Tenten questioned. Yes. Naruto said nervously. Yes. Tenten almost shrieked in excitement, looking at Naruto with stars in her eyes. Okay then. Naruto motioned for Tenten to give her the sword. She walked over to a corner, moving tables out of the way, creating herself a workspace. Everyone looked on curiously as she sat down in the lotus position, blade in front of her. From her belt she summoned the broken Kumo blade and placed it around the land of iron sword. Everyone looked on curiously as Naruto closed her eyes and lines of chakra started flowing out of her, building a sealing array, focused on the swords. Lord Jiraiya? Kakashi questioned in wonder. She actually is that good, Kakashi? Jiraiya smirked, although this is formula she has done several times, even she is not quite good enough to do this on the fly. What exactly is she doing? Sasuke asked, Sharingan activated as he watched. Well, Uchiha, she is creating seals purely from chakra. A three-dimensional seal from her own chakra. It is one of the strongest and most dangerous forms of sealing. Jiraiya answered, glaring at him, and you can cut off those fancy eyes of yours, even if you memorize the sealing arrays, they won't work for you. Sealing is a dangerous art. What works for someone may not work for others. It depends on the density, purity, and frequency of your chakra, along with 100 other variables. It's why most complex seals can't be just copied and written by anyone and everyone. Simple seals such as the exploding seal on exploding tags and most simple privacy seals are made with almost any chakra frequency, density, and purity in mind, but if you tried to do this, to copy her line for line, you'd probably kill yourself. I'm not copying her sealing arrays. Contrary to belief, we can control the copy ability to some level. I am using it to study her chakra. It is different than any I have ever seen. Strange, yet beautiful. Sasuke responded to the Toad Sage. As you like, Uchiha. Jiraiya almost growled, shifting his attention to Naruto again. Lord Jiraiya, what exactly is she doing with the swords and seals? Sakura questioned curiously. The land of iron swords are easily recognizable by their dark-colored blade with a light-colored blade edge. It is made this way by the special iron ores used in the forging process. The darker the blade, the wider the edge, as well as the more clearly defined the separation is, the better the sword. The better the sword, the better it can channel chakra. Most land of iron swords are well known for this, which is why swords from that land are well regarded by shinobi. Again, due to the special iron ores. Tenten's sword is a fairly decent one, at least compared to the few land of iron swords you can find in the shinobi nations. Amongst the shinobi nations, the best swords have always been of Uzumaki origins. Following them, it is swords from Kumo. Jiraiya started explaining, only once again to be interrupted by Sakura. But Lord Jiraiya, what about Kiri? Aren't they well known for their swordsmen? The pink-haired girl said smugly. Tsunade, the level of your apprentice continues to surprise me. Jiraiya began, causing Sakura to grin at what she thought was a compliment, because I was always under the impression you had much higher standards than what she is exhibiting. To interrupt someone as they are explaining something to pretend like she knows more. Jiraiya simply shook his head, while Tsunade glared at an now-chastised Sakura. Now little girl, if you are done pretending to know more than the current spymaster, whose job is to know information like this. I will continue. Jiraiya glared at Sakura, now to answer your question. Kiri is famous for its swordsmen, not its swords. Their best blades are all mainly from Yuzu. They had a huge trade agreement before they betrayed the Uzumaki. Most of their best blades are left over from then. Followed by blades bought from Kumo. Everything after that is smiths that were trained under the Uzumaki and their apprentices, but those standards have fallen far. But to continue my point, Kumo swords are also very cleverly crafted. The mountains around Kumo have small amounts of similar minerals and ores which they use to create alloys for their blades. Making them the next best blades for channeling chakra. What Naruto is doing with her seals is drawing out those special ores from the broken Kumo blade and using them to strengthen the land of Iron Blade. While she is doing that, she is creating a sealing array that is implementing itself in the sword from its core to its surface that will work similar to a person's chakra system, Tenketsu points included. Allowing a person to channel chakra more efficiently and larger quantities of it as well. Amazing. Tenten said, glee in her eyes as she and everyone else watched as Naruto's purplish chakra drew line after line of each array. If I know Naru, it's only about to get better for you, Tenten. Uzumaki tradition dictates that she will align the seals so they perfectly resonate with the sword's owner's chakra. After she does this, you will be required to blood the blade for the first time and name it. In the tradition, you will slice your dominant sword hand open with the blade. You will then cover every inch of the sword's blade with your blood while slowly applying chakra to the sword at the same time. In a sense, you are quenching it in your essence. By doing so, the seals in the blade cause it to resonate with you and you alone. Naruto, as the sealer whose chakra was used in the seals, will be the only person able to wield the sword with similar effectiveness. After quenching it, you must name it or rename it depending on the sword. Jiraiya spoke seriously. After which everyone stared at him and then Naruto. Watching as the sweat poured down her face, her chakra continuing to create line after line in the array. Finally looking up, she motioned Tenten forward, having expected Jiraiya to explain. Tenten, come here and sit in front of me in the lotus position. Naruto said, sweat falling down her face as the sealing array continued to float around her and the sword. Tenten carefully made her way to Naruto and sat down right in front of both her and the blade. Tenten, I assume Jiraiya explained what is going to happen. Naruto questioned. Yes, he said I had to blood the blade and apply chakra the entire time I do it. Tenten answered tentatively. You are right-handed from what I saw, take your left hand and lift the blade. Then take the blade edge and use it to slice open your right hand. Then start it where the blade meets the blade collar, at the blade edge. While applying chakra to your hand, concentrated where the wound is, slide your hand along the blade all the way up to the blade tip. Then lift your hand and placing it just behind your previous starting point and repeat the process. Continue doing this until the entire blade has been covered. Flip it over and repeat the process. While you are doing this, I will adjust the arrays to perfectly match your chakra and to resonate with you. Naruto explained, nodding for Tenten to start. Everyone watched as Tenten started, doing exactly as Naruto said. Each movement of hers was smooth and careful. Years of working with weapons showing through. Naruto wasn't just sitting there, hands and tails moved out and adjusted the steadily shrinking sealing arrays. Occasionally a new line or several would appear. Sasuke, Kakashi, and the attending Hyuga had their Dojutsu activated, staring amazed at the beauty of the seals in front of them. Finally, the sealing array had completely collapsed, just as Tenten finished. There was a quick flash that stunned everyone. When they were able to look again, there was Tenten, holding a very different sword than what she started with. Now instead of being a sword with a slightly dark blade with a lighter gray blade edge, it was a very dark gray, almost black blade, with a blade edge of almost pure white. It also now sported a cloud pattern along the back of the blade that ran 3/4 of the way up and the blade collar now had been indented with the Uzumaki crest. Whoa. Tenten murmured, feeling the blade almost connect with her chakra and hum at her touch. Stand up, go through a few katas. And then you must name it. Naruto said, standing up, walking toward the counter, signaling the gaping chiefs that she wanted more ramen. Jiraiya began to cry heavily as he saw this, knowing his wallet was about to take a major hit. Tenten stood and slowly started working her way through her katas. Getting quicker and quicker. Each movement like she was dancing. Naruto, I don't know how to thank you. This sword is the best sword I've ever wielded. It's light and easy to move, it practically cuts through the air. Tenten laughed, in fact that's the perfect inspiration, I will call her Fujin's Fang. A fierce name for a fearsome sword. Jiraiya said approvingly. The most youthful blade for the most youthful Tenten. Guy spoke, adopting his trademark nice guy pose. Well, looks like we need not test you on sealing or take anyone's word on it. You gave us a demonstration today in Fuinjutsu, one that shows extremely high skill and proficiency. Tsunade sighed, the amount of paperwork Naruto was causing her. No problem, Granny. Naruto grinned before diving back into her third round of ramen with gusto. How can she eat so much and still have that figure? Ino complained, I don't care how much she works out, there is no way she burns through that many calories in one day. It's simple, Jiraiya laughed. Uzumaki have some of the highest metabolisms ever recorded because of their incredibly strong life forces, combined with Naruto's body being at least partially non-human, she has an incredible metabolism. Now besides that, everyone knows the denser the chakra it also heightens the metabolism, before being partially turned to demonic chakra, Naruto had incredibly dense chakra. So, her metabolism is ridiculous. Add in her using chakra to write seals, causes her to expend a lot of physical energy. Therefore, she needs to eat to make up for it. Plus, she is a bit of a glutton for ramen. The whole group stared at Jiraiya before just shaking their head and agreeing mentally to just go with the flow and not question things with Naruto so much. Naruto just grinned as she started on her 4th round, Jiraiya crying as he paid the grinning ramen chiefs. Well, as soon as Naruto finishes, we will head back. I believe we have one final test left today. Tsunade spoke, shaking her head. Chapter end. What if Naruto leader of Uzushiogakure council bashing? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.